Mr. President, you've been the big guy for 6 months now in the White House. Can you take us behind the scenes, something that was extraordinary or unusual that happened that stands out to you?
Here's the deal. I want to say, oh, I like to walk out on the road to go in. Come on. I like to walk out on the road to go in. You think I'm joking? I'm not. You know what I mean? I like to walk out on the road to go in. What do you think, huh? I like to walk out on the road to go in. If your kid wanted to find out whether or not there's a man on the moon or whatever, you know, something, or whether those aliens are here or not, and you can walk out and say, I just don't like the way that guy wears his top. It's like telling your kid, I tell you what, you're 4 years old when you see a red light cross the street. I grew up in a neighborhood where you became a cop, a firefighter, or a priest. I wasn't qualified for any one of them. So here I am. And by the way, one of the things I've gotten able to get done, let me finish the question. The answer. I want to say, oh, I like to walk out on the road to go in. Come on. I like to walk out on the road to go in. You think I'm joking? I'm not. You know what I mean? I like to walk out on the road to go in. What do you think, huh? I like to walk out on the road to go in. I mean, QAnon. The idea that the Democrats or the Biden is hiding people and sucking the blood of children, and I don't care if you think I'm Satan reincarnated. The fact is, you may not like me, and that's your right. Well, I'm sitting across from Putin. He knows who I am. Joe Biden.
What's that all about? You're the big man, I think.
Whoa! I know who he is.
Who? Putin.
But again, one last thing. We don't talk enough to you about this, I don't think. Here's the deal. I want to say, oh, I like to walk out on the road to go in. Come on. I like to walk out on the road to go in. You think I'm joking? I'm not. You know what I mean? I like to walk out on the road to go in. What do you think, huh? I like to walk out on the road to go in.
Now listen, if you have not subscribed to YouTube channel, do it right now. Do it today. And all you have to do is click the big red subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Woo!
And now, Matt Wright and Spike Cohen.
No, just go.
Morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Spike, Sandy, Koufax, Cohen, I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom.
Hey, folks, thanks so much for joining us for this fantastic episode in which we've already had an error. So we're just going to go forward from here with no errors. This is a Muddy Waters Media production, as is evidenced already. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to share, like, subscribe, press all of the various algorithm helping buttons. Comment, lots of comments. Minimum 10 comments every viewer. 10 comments every viewer, just everything. Just say first. Just put first, put anything. Like, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the bell. Hit the bell. We want your phone to explode with notifications every single time we do anything. We don't want you to miss out on a single muddied thing. Give the gift of Muddy Waters today. Kids love it.
Kids love. You know what else kids love? Wow, we're going to get to that later.
Well, we're going to get into that very shortly, yes.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a little bit. First and foremost, allow me to thank the wonderful and fine people. Oh, wait, I was asked not to do that anymore. Thank you to Casey. Thank you to Casey Neth for the kava that I'm drinking today.
And allow me to thank, until I'm also asked not to do it anymore, Le Bleu, for this delicious water that I'm drinking right now. Not right now, but right now.
Bulavanaka.
So,
now, the Siesta Kava website is down for a little bit. So he said, please don't give out my website because... And I was
it's
like,
not
okay.
on the internet anymore, yeah. No, that makes sense. Well, so in the time that we normally would talk about that, instead what I'm going to say is if you live anywhere near Florence, Kentucky, come out this Friday because I'm going to throw the opening pitch to a professional baseball game. That's a real thing.
Sandy Koufax Cohen.
Sandy Koufax, the second best Jewish pitcher ever, possibly.
Maybe.
Possibly. I'm going to pitch a shutout.
That very well could be true.
It is not physically impossible that I could do that, or at least throw one pitch that doesn't bounce before getting to the catcher. That's really my goal.
You are definitely not the second best Jewish pitcher who's ever played.
Why? Who's the second best?
Well, I don't know, but there are others that aren't Sandy Koufax.
You haven't seen me pitch yet, okay? And I think I'm about to shock the world. And if you want to see me shock the world, go to spikecohen.com, and we have the information there about how you can register to be there. Tickets are only $10, and some of the proceeds go to help the Libertarian Party of Kentucky. I'm also doing all sorts of training stuff all weekend in and around, actually all through Kentucky. So if you live in Kentucky, I will see you this weekend. So let's go through these what are these things called? Sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus. This used to be a joke. This is now the second largest caucus in the Libertarian Party and the fastest growing one. And I'm sorry, I was joking, but here we are. This is where there are thousands of members. And if you'd like to become a member of the fastest growing caucus in the third largest political party in the United States of America, which is a real thing, then go to the Facebook group Libertarian Waffle House Caucus, Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus. And if you want to become an official voting member, which literally means nothing at all because we don't vote on anything, go to muddywatersmedia.com/store and get yourself some swag, some Waffle House Caucus swag. The Gravy King. Cumberland Cannabis. If you'd like to buy weed on the internet, then you can do like Matt did recently and go to Cumberland Cannabis Co. He went there in person, but you can actually go there on the internet by going to cumberlandcannabisco.com.
High quality Delta 8 products there.
High quality. High quality. Joe Solosky, speaking of high quality, Joe Solosky is high quality, and he's running for governor of Pennsylvania. He's the key to Pennsylvania's success. And if you want to help him become the first libertarian governor ever, go to joesolosky.com. That's JoeSoloski.com. Speaking of, Jack Casey wrote these two books, The Royal Green and In Silver Throned. And I'll never read that. Have you read them yet?
No, I read one paragraph of The Royal Green, and I know that there is a ship in there called the Orphanage, which I think speaks a lot to Jack Casey's childhood. But outside of that, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'll never read this because
I will never read it.
Yeah, there's not a shot in hell I'm ever even going to think of reading this. And the reason why is because if it's good, then I'll feel bad about how I've talked about it and about Jack. And if it's bad, then I'll feel good, but I'll feel bad for all of you that bought this thing.
Right, for everybody that bought it because we recommended it.
Well, I mean, we've never actually recommended anyone read this book. We've just asked them to buy it because he pays us to.
That's true. We have said that it'll hold up a chair or desk really nicely.
Right. But we've never actually said anyone should read this. And I think
that's valid.
I just like that to remain clear here. Book 3, which you can choose whether or not you want to read, Crowned by Gold, will be available at some point. I don't know. If
summer's almost over.
Really. TheRoyalGreen.com, you can purchase this and that third book, which I'm sure isn't fake. What else do we have here? Adderpan. My God, this is the scariest damn. I'm not even going to read the. Have you played this?
No, I don't have
this game
PC.
Is a nightmare. This game is only $5 on Steam. If you were ever thinking of just having a nervous breakdown and jump scares, as they call it, or as I call it, panic attacks, then be sure to get Adderpan, which is available on Steam for the low price of $5 and a lifetime of therapy. Speaking of a life, Fierce Luxury by Ashley. High-end bags and accessories. Right there it says that. This is an online consignment shop. And they only charge, if you consign your products with them, with Ashley, it's only 30%, which is 20% less than literally everyone else charges. That's what she told us. I don't know if I've never consigned a bag. But they have all the finest brands from Louis Vuitton to, I don't know, Gucci and
Hermes. It's not Hermes, which is how it's spelled. It's Hermes.
Yes. And the various other high quality. We know a lot about bags on this show. So if you go to fierceluxurybyashley.com, you too can buy a
Great for concealed carrying.
mud water. If you wanted to not ever drink coffee and instead drink something that tastes roughly the same as coffee, which isn't good, but then you can get mud water. It's got only masala chai, which is, it's only got masala chai, cacao, mushrooms, turmeric, sea salt, cinnamon, and literally nothing else. And no, not those kinds of mushrooms. But they are neuroprotective, whatever that means. So if you go to muddywatersmedia.com/mud, you too can purchase this and try it. It has 1/7 the caffeine of a regular cup of coffee, just enough to wake you up and not so much that you feel nervous about the mushrooms you just had. Matt?
So, Spike, do you know who runs better than the government?
Oh, no. I'm literally wearing the shirt. No. Who?
You're not following the script that's in the notes. Well,
wait.
luckily...
No, no. Sorry. Why, yes, I do. Thomas Daniel Queter runs better than the government, and he qualifies this by stating he could manage a step and a dive, which is at least one step better than the government. And he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Makes total sense. There is also a meme contest running every month.
In fact, this meme was made by a fan of Tom's, Mobile Joe. Go to tomfor52.com/FTG. What does FTG stand for?
Fuck the... I like how I didn't edit out fuck. I edited out government.
Just the government, yeah. Well, we don't say bad words on this show. To enter the monthly meme contest and buy these awesome shirts for only, doesn't say.
And buy these awesome shirts. There's also socks and blankets available. Support his 2022 run for state senate in New York and cuddle up with Tom.
Tom is very cuddly. I've met Tom and I want to cuddle with him. Send this man as many memes as you possibly can, preferably with him in his wheelchair, because apparently he gets a kick out of that. So
he does, yeah.
Yes.
TOMFOR52.com.
TOMFOR52.com. Now, speaking of, I don't have any good segues this week. Matt.
Speaking of things that kids love.
Yes, we were talking about kids earlier. Matt, what else do kids love that we can talk about on this show?
So I have been a fan of our guest for many a year. I found out about him on a different person's podcast many years ago, and I immediately went out and I bought all of the books that were available at the time. I am very excited to be able to say that he is finally here on Muddied Waters Media. Please welcome with me the author of the Tuttle Twin series, Connor Boyack.
Connor, thanks so much for joining the show, man.
Well, thanks, gentlemen. And you missed the best segue. I also publish books that can be used to prop up tables and desks. So I feel like that was the segue we could have used.
We could have used that. See, the problem is I don't really know that those are books. And it's possibly a cult that this Jack guy's doing.
So if we had closed with Jack, I was immediately going to go in and be like, but here are some books that I do recommend you read and that I have actually read, because I have read all of the kids' books. To read them.
Wow. What a trash on Jack that would be, to be like, so this guy that pays us, you can choose what you want to do with his book, but this guy who's never given us a penny, you should definitely read his books. So for those who don't know,
he gave me the entire series this week. So,
yeah. I just got this.
You got a graphic.
I got a graphic.
Good Spike.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So for those
turn
who
it into
don't
an
know,
NFT. Maybe we'll make you some money.
Yes, this is you too. All of you watching this can have this for the low price. The first person to send me $500, I will give this to you, and only you. No one can ever have this.
No one else can have that graphic.
I'll give you the whole episode.
Non-fungible.
It's none. You can't funge it. You can try as hard as you can to funge this thing. It is too. You can't funge it. So tell us. So for those who don't know, tell us about the Tuttle twins and what got you to even have the idea to start that.
So the Tuttle Twins is a series of books for kids that teach the ideas of liberty to the rising generation. Now we have books from toddlers to teens. Our main series is the one that Matt was holding up. That's for the kind of the 5 to 10 year olds. That's kind of our flagship series of books. And basically we're filling a massive void where our movement has not been talking to the rising generation. We wait until people are adults and have been propagandized by the schools and colleges, and then we go to work trying to educate these people. So our vision is that we should be doing that at a younger age, that we should be enabling parents to talk to their kids and having conversations about these ideas. Elijah Stanfield, who is the illustrator, he and I several years ago, he worked on the Ron Paul campaign on 2012. I also did. He was doing a lot of the videos for the Rev Pack. We're both very passionate about these ideas and dads of, at the time, young kids. And we were kicking around some ideas, trying to think, what could we do and what would be a fun project. And at the time, I found myself I literally went to Amazon one day and I'm like, books that teach, free markets to kids. And there was just nothing. And so it really validated for us that there was this void in the marketplace. We didn't know if there would be demand. But we decided to do just one book as a little test. That was the law, based on Bastiat's The Law. We basically, with all the kids' books, we take the core ideas out of the original book. I mean, we got Atlas Shrugged and economics in one lesson and human action and the creature from Jekyll Island. And so we take the core ideas, we wrap it in a fun story. Elijah does a bang up job of illustrating them. And then we educate the kids, but also their parents who are often learning these ideas for the first time. So that's been a fun thing as well.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so when I bought the books, initially, I still don't have my own children, but I didn't have kids at the time. But I had a nephew who was right at that right age for it. He was right, 8-ish at the time, 7, 8. So I would take them home with me to read them. And his parents, I think they still hate me for that because they're like Bernie supporters and they did not like what I was feeding their child. But I was like, no, they're kids' books. Like, why would I? It's just a kid's book. It's fine.
What's wrong with kids' books? You have a problem with kids' books?
Yeah. Why do you not want me to read? He wanted me to read him a book and I happened to bring one and they're like, stop reading him those. And I was like, well, hopefully something stuck.
You got to plant those seeds while you can.
I know, have to.
And now it's interesting because you've got, I believe, and you can tell me if you think differently on this, I believe, and I've decided in this moment that Matt also believes, that children are kind of inherent, like when we're born, we're kind of inherently anti-authoritarian. We are trying to figure things out for ourselves. Obviously, we fall short because we're still developing physically and mentally, but we have this kind of inherent desire not to be controlled and to try to figure things out as best we can. And it seems like over time, we sort of have it beaten into our heads as we're developing that, well, not only do you need someone to guide you, but you also need someone to tell you what to do at every aspect of your lives. And there are these specific people that we've decided are authority figures and you have to listen to them at all times and everything else. And so by the time, like you said, by the time someone's an adult, they've been conditioned with all this stuff. But it's probably, would you not say it's probably a lot easier to reach them at younger ages where this stuff intuitively makes even more sense than it does as adults?
I think that's the latter part of what you said is true. I'll quibble a little bit with the first part. I think where we run into the kind of anti-authoritarian comparison breaking down is that a lot of people perceive, parents as the source of authority. And there's this question of like, how much authority does the child have or not have? I think an example that we've seen work far more powerfully than focusing at it kind of the authority side is the fact that like all parents, all good parents, I'll say, teach their children the non-aggression principle, right? It's like you're spending your whole parenting life basically saying, don't hurt other kids, don't take their stuff, leave other kids alone. And so you're basically teaching the nap kids already. It's only later in life that parents start adding these little asterisks on the end of like, oh, well, it's okay to hurt other people in this context, or it's okay to take people's stuff, here. And those exceptions are added later in life. But it's really been fun for us because it provides a little snapshot where we're like, hey, look, you're already teaching these ideas. You want your kid to understand these ideas of peace and cooperation and social harmony and collaboration, working together, all these things. And so we can tap into that and say, those are good ideas. You're exactly right for teaching these ideas. And guess what? They're libertarian ideas. And guess what? They can be consistently applied as your kids get older and turn into adults. And so we can build that common ground from a young age, because those parents are already thinking that way in terms of parenting their children by saying, leave other kids alone, don't hurt them. And we can use that kind of reference language.
And that's covered very nicely in book number 6, The Golden Rule.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Vanna White.
I do that too, except I don't have the book, so I'll just keep doing this.
Right.
Buy your NFT today.
But that's a good point. So you're right. We're actually telling kids, don't hurt people, don't steal from people, don't touch people without your consent. If someone tries to touch you without your consent, be sure to let us know. Like all these things that really are just the nap applied to everyday life. And then at some point as they get older, it's like, well, you're old enough now to know the truth. There are actually times where it's perfectly acceptable to violate all those things. And it's like, what? And it's, but it's for your own good. And the parents are only saying that because they were taught that too. So in your case, here's a book that if you already believe that, this just helps you as a teaching tool and as a educational and entertainment tool for your kids to share these ideas. But, if you got a parent that maybe is libertarian-ish, but, is still maybe on the fringes of some stuff, they're reading your stuff and realizing, oh, wow, this is consistently with the basics of what we tell people, that you don't hurt people, you don't rob people, you don't kill people, you don't touch them without their consent. You don't do those things. So that's amazing what you're doing.
Yeah.
What Matt, you shared about I think you said as your brother or sister saying, don't read this to our kids. That's actually rare for us. What's been really interesting is we've been able to reach far beyond libertarian circles. In fact, when Elijah and I did our first book, we went to Freedom Fest because we're thinking, here's all these like libertarians. We'll start here. We'll have a booth. We'll say, hey guys, you've all read The Law by Boyack, come get the children's version. And, we sold a lot of books and that to us was like a market signal, like, hey, there is interest here. But when we started going beyond that, other libertarian events, online advertising, we exhausted our audience pretty quickly. Like the libertarian community isn't the biggest one. And then we realized like what we're doing here is bigger than just helping libertarians teach their kids. It's trying to teach the whole world these ideas. And so we have to market more broadly. And so what we're finding is that, when we appeal to that rational self-interest of a parent, like you want your child to be well-rounded, right? You want them to learn the golden rule. You want them to learn about entrepreneurship. Don't you want them to learn how money works and how to, start business and why it's important for them to understand property rights and they can understand our freedoms and history and blah, blah, blah. And you can use more, I hate the word inclusive now, but you can use this broader language that has an appeal to conservatives, to moderates, even folks on the left. Oddly speaking, right now, in fact, last week, we started some online ads targeting Bernie Sanders supporters, and it's performing better than our ads going to conservatives. Like it's mind blowing.
Really?
But I think it shows that there's at least this like broader appeal to some, not all of them. Granted, some of our books are far more libertarian than others. But I think there's a broader appeal here we're seeing outside of the preaching to the choir, already libertarian type of movement, which is fun because I'm a person who wants to grow the movement. I don't really like the navel gazing and the infighting and the, everything else. But I want to go, grow the congregation and reach a lot more people. And I bet dollar for dollar, Tuttle Twins is doing it far better than any other initiative because we're reaching entire families and we're reaching them in a way that's very appealing and endearing.
That's awesome. We have a couple of good questions here in the comments. Billy Pierce for Texas. I love Billy Pierce. He's a great dude. He said, Our 300 plus family homeschool co-op here in Houston uses these books to teach these core fundamentals early. Thank you for your work. Is there more to come?
Oh, that's a great question, Billy. I love talking about that one. So, yeah, we're putting out several more books this year. A lot of people don't know that we've moved beyond the kids' books, and so we've got a series of nonfiction books for the teens, a guidebook series. We've got novels, like the old Choose Your Own Adventure type of novels, if you guys remember those. And so we've got 3. We're about to put out our 4th in just a few weeks, and so that's coming soon. We launched our toddler books, these little board books. And so we got the ABCs of Liberty, so here's M for sound money. And it shows them at the, the printing machine here, the bazillion dollars. And Elijah had a blast. In fact, there's another one in here. I got to Spike. You mentioned consent, right? And so here,
Yes.
Sorry, my light is reflecting, but like there's B is for bodily autonomy. C is for consent,
Yes.
and
That's
so
awesome.
we've got all these
this.
here's the nap. So the nap, let's see is that focusing. Don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. And so we play it up as like a nap for toddlers. But anyways, so we've got these. We're launching a cartoon. I don't know if you saw Spike at Freedom Fest, but we were premiering our first cartoon. We raised $5 million for season 1 from a bunch of investors, from all our supporters. That's going really well. Episode 1 is almost done. We're going to launch that this fall and then just keep pumping out additional episodes. We're shooting for like a multi season show far into the future where we can reach a huge audience. We got all kinds of ideas. And my vision for this is like, I want to become this content empire teaching, the ideas of freedom to families all across the world. We translate our books into like 15 languages at this point.
Somebody actually asked a question about that, and I was going to ask it, but you knocked it out already. So
and that's what's so exciting to me is because like sometimes when we advertise to the conservatives, they're like, "Oh, America, this teaches the Constitution." I'm like, well, no, it doesn't. Like this teaches like philosophical and economic ideas which relate to people all over the world. And so we translate them. Germany is one of our top performing countries. We got a ton in Brazil, Venezuela, France, Mexico, tons in Italy. And so we look for like strategic partners around the world who are going to like go market it in their country and really push it out there. And so that's honestly one of the funnest parts for me is when we get to translate the books and really try and find those international opportunities.
That is awesome. We have another question.
Amazing.
Well, one of the questions is shut up and take my money. That's not really as much of a question. But so one person, Kenneth Ebel, asked, have you done any work with like possibly having this featured as part of Ron Paul's homeschool curriculum or?
Not yet. So Ron's been very great to us. He's totally supportive of what we're doing. In fact, at that first Freedom Fest, when Elijah were there with the first book, I had just listed the books on our website, TuttleTwins.com, I think like the week prior. So I'm getting some little notifications on my phone every like 20 or 30 minutes with an order. And I'm sitting behind the Freedom Fest booth and I get a little notification. I look at it and it's from Ron and Carol Paul, his wife, Ron and Carol. And they ordered 50 books. And so I emailed them and they're like, oh, we wanted one for all of our grandkids. I was like, all right, the father of the freedom movement, has endorsed our work. So he's been very gracious, very supportive of what we're doing. But his curriculum was actually developed by Gary North. So he kind of white labeled Ron's name to create this curriculum, and they're kind of doing their own thing. So we have no plans to be part of it. We're really trying to build our own brand. And so love everything Ron is doing and has done in the past, but we're forging our own path.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
That's amazing. And it sounds like you guys are doing a great job at, you say we're trying to forge our own path and do our own thing, but it sounds like you guys are killing it in that manner.
You raised $5 million.
Right. You've got 12 books out that I have here. And then you've got the toddlers books and then the books for the teens and Choose Your Own Adventure. And
here's the little snapshot. So 2014, is when we started publishing our first book. And obviously when you've got one book and then two book and no one knows what you're doing or who you are, right, it's going to go slow and gradually build. But in 2014 through 2019, we sold a total of 750,000 books, and we self-publish. And so, had no mainstream media or whatever. I thought it was amazing. I was very happy for that success. So 750,000 across all of those years. Last year alone, 2020, we sold 1.3 million books, almost double the entire, past 5-6 years. And so momentum is totally picking up. I mean, parents across the country are like, the world is nuts. What's going on? We're losing our freedoms. What can we do about it? And a lot of, honestly, especially the moms, they feel like there isn't anything they can do politically, right? But then when we say, oh, hey, but you can educate your kids, and you can talk as a family, and you can make sure that your kids are aware of what's happening, and they can understand and appreciate, what freedom actually looks like and how to try and defend it, et cetera. That's very empowering for mom to be like, oh, I can do that, take my money, right? And then we'll go read these books together and have quality family time. So it's been a very empowering thing, I think, in 2020 to give people something they can do and feel good about. And that momentum is just continuing. We think 2021, we're going to beat that. And so our goal is 2 million books this year. And I think we're going to accomplish it. It's especially with the cartoon coming out. It's amazing. I just saw previews some of the upcoming episodes, and like we're super jazzed. We think the cartoon is going to reach so many more people just because it's more entertaining. It's just a fun kid show with like some freedom stuff sprinkled in there. And then when we hook them, then it's like, hey, if you want to, learn a little bit more or get more involvement, come read the books.
Get the books.
Yeah,
so
I
a couple of
watched,
questions.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I watched the preview that you had in the tent there at Freedom Fest. Honestly, I went over there because I smelled popcorn. But then once I got there, that was genius marketing move. I'm like, I smell popcorn, and there's this gigantic bag of popcorn, and they're like, there's a movie too, or there's a cartoon if you want to watch it too. And I'm like, I'll watch the cartoon with the popcorn. And so went in, and it was awesome. And like you said, very, very light touch, right? Like it has libertarian themes in it, but it's just a really cool, fun children's cartoon. And with the idea, like you said, you get that hook in, and if they want to find out more and they're interested in the books, now they're going to get more exposed to the bigger picture ideas of liberty. I think it's fantastic. When the cartoon comes out, where are people going to be able to watch it? Is that going to be on TuttleTwins.com, or is that going to be YouTube, Vimeo, or everywhere?
Great question. So we're going to have our own app where anyone will be able to download it and watch everything for free. So Apple TV, Roku, download it on your phone, your tablet, whatever. And so that way we're going to have a little community that we're going to create on our own. And people can watch it as much as they want. We're going to have it translated. So we're going to, again, this is an international play as well with the cartoon. And so we're going to have subtitles and probably eventually dubbing for other languages, but everything will be free. And we're going to use kind of a pay it forward model. We're using the same distribution partner that a show called The Chosen is doing. And they are doing a multi-season show about Jesus and the apostles. And they felt like, Hollywood is never going to make this. We're going to go forge our own path. Right. And so they've really figured out how to do this. The distribution companies learned a lot, and we're going to take all that learning and then bake it into our app for the Tuttle Twins. And eventually we'll set up distribution deals. We'd love to go talk to Hulu or Netflix, once we got some justification, say, hey guys, like there's some demand here. But what we don't want is we don't want any of those networks to touch the content. So my role as executive producer is to make sure that everything is faithful to the ideas and the philosophy. And we don't want this going, on some weird path if someone else got involved. And so we want to make the show that's faithful to these ideas of freedom. And then from there, once we've proven ourselves, then we want to go talk to the big boys about, licensing and distribution. But for now, it's just going to be on an app for free. Watch it as many times as you want, wherever you want.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, because I knew that it was coming out. I've known. I think I saw the GoFundMe or the whatever crowdsourcing that you did. I saw that when it first came out. I may have even given to it. I don't even remember. But I have no idea anymore. But I saw it when it first came out, and I was like, man, I wonder where they're going to be releasing it, because I didn't actually read it. I was just like, no, I'll give Connor money. I like that guy. I've been wondering where it was where it was going to be coming out when it was ready, because I can't. Selfishly, I can't wait to watch it because I think I love the books. They're great. I read them before. Like I read them before children were in my life. And so I was like, I can't wait to watch this. But now I say, I can't wait to show my girlfriend's kids this show because it'll be a show that I will be able to tolerate. And
Spike, tell me, Spike, if you felt differently. And obviously with a pilot episode, we're going to get better over time. But what we're going for is what Matt was just talking about. We're really trying with the cartoon to have like the kid level humor, and then an adult, like jokes that only the adults are going to get, so that the whole family wants to watch this thing. And then naturally the kids are going to be like, well, wait, why was that funny? And then the parents can explain it that way. The next time, the second, third, fourth, fifth time the kids are watching, they're going to understand the jokes too. But we want to create this family experience so that it's not like no parent wants to watch VeggieTales, right? And so that's just like you put your kid in front of the TV and like, hey kid, watch this, and while I go do dishes or whatever. But for this, we want the whole family talking about this together. So we're really going for that dual level of humor. Do you feel watching that pilot that element was there?
Yeah, there was definitely the and it's similar that you see in cartoons in general now, where there are certain things that are like, I don't think the kids are going to get that, right? Like it's like that's going to go over kids' heads, at least initially. But the parents watching it are going to. I think what you built was perfect. And I was really impressed with the production values of it. I'm like, this is no different than what I would see on Netflix or Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or any of these. And it's, I mean, it was the work speaks for itself. I think it's incredible. And I really look forward to seeing how this is going to play out, how it's going to go.
This is something I criticize our movement for, right? Just collectively speaking, broadly speaking, I feel like we don't have enough kind of cultural elements, media production. We don't have, I mean, like you think of, I don't know, Hercules, Kevin Sorbo, right? And they're kind of, he's doing his thing, and like there's all these like B-listers and people doing kind of some maybe cheesy stuff or lower production value and things like that. But
right.
I feel like we really need to hook the rising generation. We need to give them something that's engaging. We need something with high production value, and so we're shooting for the moon here. Animation's super expensive, and like the more that you even like animating someone's mouth to like match the dialogue, and every little thing like you add like that adds a ton of cost. But looking at it, we're like, we want this to be a generational thing. We want to do dozens of seasons of this thing. Like we want the Tuttle Twins to be a household name across the world. And if we're going to do that, we can't go low budget. We can't do something half-assed and just, preach to the choir. We got to do something really good that people are going to love. And the kids are going to, like a Disney movie, that they'll just want to watch it again and again and again.
Right.
And let those ideas sink in. So that's what we're aiming for.
We see this a lot, right? We see this in like religious media and in sort of conservative media and libertarian media and stuff like that, where they'll put out something that's about 70% of the way there. And it ends up becoming this thing where it's like, well, I want to watch, whatever Adventure Time. And they're like, okay, but first you have to watch this. And they put the thing in and the kid watches it. And it's like, oh, whatever. Okay. Did you learn? Yes, I learned. Can I watch Adventure Time now? What you've created is like something that kids are just going to want to watch, like just on its own. It's going to be entertaining in its own right. And there is a lesson there as well. And like you said, as they get more involved in it, they can do the books, they can do the stuff for the kid. I love that you have one for, logical fallacies for teenagers, but you can get them along that path. I think it's really great. Now, for people to follow you doing this, Tuttle Twins is pretty much on all social media platforms. And then there's also TuttleTwins.com. Are those the best ways to reach you?
Yep.
Cool, man. So you're actually going to stick around with us, folks. We have Connor's didn't just come on as a guest to talk about his show. He's actually going to stick around with us for a little bit to go over some of the things that have happened this week, and then we're going to let him go before we get into the ASMR segment, because I don't want him to think that we're weird. So
we don't need to weird him out more.
We don't need to weird out the creator of the Tuttle Twins here. We're trying
listen
to
the
guys.
Tuttle Twins pages slowly, crisply.
This is.
Imagine the freedom.
We could read. We're gonna do an episode, and hopefully you don't, throw a C and D at us. But we're gonna read a Tuttle Twins book.
All right.
Probably the one about logical fallacies in ASMR format, and then you'll never come on the show again. So
I read the search for Atlas sitting in bed. Like my girlfriend, she made breakfast the other day, and I was reading the search for Atlas, and she's like, "Well, can I hear it?" So I read the entire thing out loud while we're lying in bed drinking coffee, and she's like, "This is a great way to spend a Saturday morning." And I was like, "Sure, yeah."
It's ASMR.
It's better than it's like a Reader's Digest. So few people are going to go read Atlas Shrugged unless they're like hardcore, already objectivist or libertarians. And so we can reach a lot more people with Ayn Rand's ideas that way. Why not?
Yeah, no, I've read 3/4 of Atlas Shrugged, and then I stopped. I got through the entire thing in one day. It was great.
Yeah, exactly. So we are now, where's the thing? Hold on. This is okay. Now, speaking of shrugging, you too can shrug off coffee forever with Mud Water Coffee Alternative, which brings you the Mud Water Mushroom Coffee Replacement Cacao Rapid Fire segment, brought to you by Mud Water. Matt?
So there's a new virus that is spreading through the country, brand new. And Rochelle Walensky, the head of the CDC, says if we all get vaccinated or wear masks for 2 weeks, we should be just fine. And wait, this sounds familiar. I feel like I've seen this.
I don't know, man. I think it's going to work this time. This is definitely. This is going to
absolutely work. Yeah. This time it's going to be different. We are not going to lock down for a year. Although, like for Connor, I feel like that may have been really good for his business.
Silver lining in a dark cloud.
Right.
What's that quote that's fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right?
Right. Yes. That was Bill Clinton.
We've been here before.
Yes, this
15 days to
15 days to slow the spread.
I thought we were still in day like 507 of 15 days to slow the spread. I didn't know we're now in a second phase overlapping the existing one. 15 more days to slow the spread again.
Right, we're in day 5 of Delta as opposed to day 507 of COVID.
Yeah, this is. I'm gonna say, Connor, I don't know how much you've traveled. In the last year, I have been to 41 or 42 states. I have done close to 200 different events, and I've met I don't know how many tens of thousands of people. It's at least 20,000 with a conservative estimate. And I have, basic health and safety precautions I've been using for years. I wash my hands regularly. I don't touch my face unless my hands are clean. I don't eat or drink after strangers. Or really after anyone except, I guess, my wife. And I've been able to remain negative this whole time. And I feel like, and maybe you can weigh in on this, I feel like maybe we don't have to try to recreate cold and flu season conditions by telling everyone to stay home unless they absolutely have to go outside. What do you think?
So I wrote a book a few years ago called Feardom. Tom Woods wrote the foreword to it. And it was a catalog of how politicians try to exploit our emotions and how we can stop them. And after I published that book, I was really worried. Like I was excited a tiny bit, kind of like that silver lining in a dark cloud I just mentioned, but like also horrified that a book like that is never not going to be relevant. It's like Bob Higgs's Crisis in Leviathan that he wrote in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Right. Our most recent Tuttle Twins book is, I don't think I have it here, but it's based off of that, called the Crisis, the Tuttle Twins and the Leviathan Crisis. There we go. There's your NFT. You got it. Matt's got it.
I've got it.
So this is a cycle that happens again and again. And so in Feardom, it's basically like the idea here is not safety, it's control. And Thomas Jefferson has the great quote where he says that timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the tempestuous sea of liberty. And the problem I think that we as libertarians face is that people do prefer to be taken care of, cradle to grave. They want someone to protect them, to save them, to keep them comfortable and stable. Whereas liberty is tempestuous. It's uncertain. It's unpredictable. You might catch COVID. You might die if you've got comorbidities, right? But it's worth it. Like, life is worth living. What's the point of, being under quarantine and not living life? And so I think that's a challenge, is that depressingly, we're in a society where people do prefer the calm of despotism, and they trade their liberty for security, and we have the horrible status quo that we're now in. But with you, I've been traveling a lot. I've been fine. At Freedom Fest, we were there like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Yep. Everyone was jazzed, shaking hands, like people were excited to just like rub shoulders again and have humanity back, at least to some degree. So I've been feeling that at a lot of the events I've been going to, is people are fed up and they just want to go back to the old normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And a crazy thing about that is, very often despotism only provides the fascia or the facade of calm and stability, when the reality is the status quo of despotism and increasing despotism that we live under is also the same status quo that's bringing us, the cost of living spiraling out of control. The fact that COVID wasn't able to get controlled because for the first 2 months that the virus was here, the government wouldn't allow anyone to test for it. So it spread out of control. Then they, shoved COVID patients into nursing homes, which, caused all these headlines of, thousands of old people dying suddenly. And that led to the fear that led to the lockdowns, which have clearly done nothing to slow or stop the spread. So if anything, it seems to me like, yes, there are certainly instances where freedom is more tempestuous, as you put it, or as Jefferson put it, or more unpredictable than despotism. But it seems like, on the balance, we actually do better when we're more free. It's not just that, freedom in and of itself is a good thing. It's also that freedom typically makes things better too, at least in by my measure.
I think what Jefferson said should probably be paired with what Bastiat said, talking about that which is seen and that which is not seen. It's very easy to see the tempestuous liberty. Oh my gosh, that guy's open carrying a weapon, right? Or he's walking around without a mask. Or, oh my gosh, look at the exploding number of cases from the Delta variant, as if numbers of cases means anything. And yet we fixate on that tempestuous data point or instance. Whereas, to your point, Spike, I think that which is not seen is the despotism, that it appears calm, but you don't see the business owner, losing 10 years of his life with all the stress, the failed marriages, the child abuse, the suicide rates. You don't see the stuff that's buried. It doesn't make the news, and yet it's certainly real. And it reminds me of back when the Olympics happened a few years ago, and where was it? It was China or something. And they have this whole pretty facade of what everything looks like, but then they don't let media go to like the slums that are like 2 blocks away, and all the oppression, like, I don't know, it's just orchestrated or manufactured. Right.
It's minders telling us what to look at. So speaking of which, we have new information that you would not have heard outside of the mainstream media, like, for example, on a podcast that airs Tuesday nights, usually around 8 p.m. It states that even fully vaccinated people can be carriers of COVID and spread it to other people, Matt, even if they're vaccinated.
Yeah, so because you never would have heard that anywhere else before now.
Ever.
It is recommended that everyone should be wearing masks again all the time. Vaccinated, unvaccinated, whether you are indoors, whether you are outdoors, you should be in a mask. And if you need confirmation on this, watch this clip of Fauci we have talking about wearing masks and when you should do that.
People should not be walking around with masks. Let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better. And masks are protective. But it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
There has not been any indication that putting a mask on and wearing a mask for a considerable period of time has any deleterious effects.
There are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course.
You do not need to wear a mask indoors if, in fact, you've been vaccinated. But good that you're vaccinated, But in a situation where you have people indoors, particularly crowded, you should wear a mask.
So even if you are vaccinated, you should wear a mask. If in fact you are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, you are.
Wait, in that last one, he said that in the same interview. There was
he said that, yeah, that was the exact same interview.
Incredible.
Protected, and you do not need to wear a mask outdoors or indoors. When the children go out into the community, you want them to continue to wear masks.
You know, if you look at children outside, particularly when they're with the family, walking down the street, playing a game or what have you, don't have to wear a mask.
The Academy of Pediatric actually makes that recommendation that children should be wearing masks from 2 years old onward.
And you're asking now, if your child is a member of your household, can you walk outdoors with your child without a mask? According to that chart, the answer is yes.
But the child can't, not to beat it to death.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Because now the CDC says, I mean, I think I've got this right. 1 mask is better than 0 masks. 2 masks is better than 1 mask. But you don't have to have double masks. Is that right? I mean,
it became clear that cloth coverings that you didn't have to buy in a store, that you could make yourself, were adequate. And then you want it to fit better. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained.
are you a double masker, Dr. Fauci? It looked like you are.
That is just, and this is all like, for those who are going, yes, but the science changed. This is all within like a 2 or 3 month period that most of these.
Some of those were from last year. Some of those were from last year.
Some of them were the same interview.
Some of them were the same interview. Those were from interviews over the course of the entire series. But yeah, how quickly he goes back, like you said, he goes back and forth so quickly. He does it in an interview on Fox. That was on Fox, right? That was Neil Cavuto.
That was Neil Cavuto.
He's still on Fox. He's still on Fox.
I just think of that boy who cries wolf parable or whatever, right? Like
right.
The villagers
exactly
believing the boy at some point because he's, making things up and saying stupid stuff. And when are we going to get to the point where we stop listening to this guy? It's crazy.
I don't know. So you don't consider yourself a Fauciist?
Maybe I should consider him competition. Did you see that Fauci's getting a children's book now? It's when Fauci goes to Washington, and it's got him, as a cartoon character on the cover, and it's a whole glorifying, weird, culty kind of book.
So last year during the pandemic, when everything was shut down, even Florida was shut down for a little bit, but we had just reopened. There's this quirky independent bookstore here that you had to make an appointment to go to because they would only let 2 parties in at a time, kind of a thing. And they had a book there that was called How Dr. Fauci Became America's Doctor, and it was geared to kids. And I saw it and I picked it up and I almost bought it because I didn't want anybody else to. Because I was just my desk is
put it behind a stack of other books way back somewhere where they can't
right.
see it.
Exactly. And I was just like, wow, they are just, and the same place had a children's book about Pete Buttigieg and a children's book about Nancy Pelosi. And I went, well, I'm just never going to come back to this bookstore.
And people accuse me of propaganda.
Right.
That is, it's just, it's horrifying. And, at the same time, again, if only someone had said that, the possibility that, the vaccinated are almost as likely to spread COVID as the unvaccinated on, say, the night before that it was released, that they said that, on, I don't know, Kennedy on Fox Business. Hold on.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the problem is here, I think the data is going to kill their whole, this is only a pandemic of the unvaccinated narrative that they've been pushing out for the last month. I think what the data might very well show, if they have, it's one of two things. Either they don't have any good data on why they're doing this, or they do, and the data is that vaccinated or
This is such a shameless plug for me. Anyway,
vaccinated, you're going to get COVID and you're going to spread it, which kills their whole narrative of, well, this isn't just about you. It's being a good neighbor to others to be vaccinated so you can't spread it to them. But if you still can spread it to them, and that turns out to be the case, then if someone's not worried about getting sick personally, then they don't actually have a good reason to tell them that they have to get vaccinated. I think that might be it. There's also a possibility that it's the fact that they've never really had good data about the mask mandates. If you'll recall, when they first did their studies about mask mandates in different cities compared to cities that didn't have them, in their reference period, they didn't see any difference in hospitalizations or deaths. So I think what they might have a lot of data, but it might not be showing what they want anyone to see.
If only someone had said that.
So he's your Senator, Spike. I'm certain you've heard. Lindsey Graham, fully vaccinated, and he has COVID now?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you... shocking. A strategist for the Rhode Island Democratic Party named Kate Coyne McCoy. I saw this earlier today and I forgot to add it to the notes. Tweeted out, it's wrong to hope he dies from COVID, right?
I mean, I get it. Anyway. So I get it. But I mean the Texas Democrats who left Texas and they were on a plane together, and a bunch of them got COVID. They were all vaccinated. Like the DC mayor. The DC mayor. All of these people. So it's. By the way, we're not anti-vax on this program, but they're saying that this particular type of vaccine doesn't actually necessarily make you immune from the virus. It just preps your immune system to fight it better so that it comes basically not as a novel virus. So you're much less likely to get sick or die. Right. Okay, great. Then it's a personal choice. If I can still get it and spread it to other people, either way, in almost the same level, then why are you pressuring me to get it? If I don't want to get it, if someone else doesn't want to get it, then that's our personal choice that affects our personal health and literally no one else.
Right.
I'm sure Connor has
at some point we went from like risk mitigation to like we can't have anyone getting COVID at all, right? Before 15 days to flatten the curve, it was really just about maximizing hospital capacity and spreading out the inevitable right infection that everyone was going to get. And now for some reason people think like focusing on the case counts. I guarantee you, had we been doing this for influenza for years, people would have been losing their minds with how many people were getting the flu. And the flu kills all kinds of people, and there's a vaccine and a lot of people don't get it and some people do. Like, and it's just amazing how when you can fixate people's attention on something, they're going to have this like irrational fear about it where they can't evaluate risk relative to everything else in their life. Right. And I mean, it's fear porn. People obviously are addicted to this right now, and the media is seeing tons of clicks, and I don't see them stopping anytime soon.
Right. And so you saw this a lot when Fauci's emails came out, and the entire time he wasn't worried about, treating the people who had it. He was worried about numbers, and then he was just worried about vaccine. He wasn't ever really worried on how to treat it or how to slow it in any way, because he was just like, no, we need to figure out what the cure is. We need to get the vaccine. And then once they got the vaccine, it was all about the vaccine. And at no point was it, we need to figure out a cure. We need to figure out how to slow it, because as we've learned over the last year and a half, the three things that you shouldn't do if you have COVID is to isolate yourself, stay indoors, and not go out, not go outside, because the sun helps cure you.
Yeah, but Big Pharma can't package and sell the sun, so
that's valid.
Yet.
Yes. Give it time.
Soon you'll
give it time.
I got to get my monthly UV ray infusion. Donald Trump tried to tell us that he was going to put sunlight in our veins or whatever he said back in the last year. So speaking of former presidents, I did it. I finally had a relevant segue. Former President Barack Obama, Matt, and Connor, is throwing himself a 60th birthday party in a place where COVID apparently doesn't exist, Martha's Vineyard. Where there's going to be 475 guests and over 200 staff members. It's really nice that COVID doesn't exist on Martha's Vineyard.
COVID definitely does not exist on Martha's Vineyard.
I'm grateful for these instances. I think the more that happen, the better. I mean, it's like when people get upset with like Trump or Biden or Obama golfing instead of working. I'm like, I want them golfing every single day.
Nothing but golf. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so I feel like it's people get outraged. Oh my gosh, how dare, Obama hold this party? And I'm like, the more that this crap happens, the more this all unravels and the better off we're going to be.
Right.
And you've got the DC mayor, and then you had the California governor, doing his little party, and all the hypocrisy is just showing that it's like rules for me and rules for thee. It's showing the elitism. It's showing the authoritarianism. This is how we kind of break things down, is by getting people to be so disgusted with their overlords that they just have widespread non-compliance. And so the more this happens, I'm just sitting here like applauding from the sidelines saying, all right, another case that kind of puts a little, crack in the facade here to try and dismantle it altogether.
Right. And what it also go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so you have seen this throughout the entire pandemic, where you had Nancy Pelosi going to get her haircut or whatever when they shut down all the salons in San Francisco. Then you had Whitmer doing literally everything she told people not to do.
She went to Florida.
Did all of it.
She went to Florida.
She literally did all of it. Everything that she was like, no, you can't do that. And but I'm going to, but screw you. You don't get a choice. The DC mayor, now Obama, who Obama recently was tweeting out about the Delta variant and how it can spread quickly and hurt people, even if they're vaccinated. So I'm interested to see the logic between him reaching that to, I'm going to throw a party with like 700 people.
Well, it's okay, Matt and Connor, because is it Psaki or Psaki?
It's Psaki, but
Psaki, circle back. Psaki said it wasn't a big deal because Barack Obama has been a huge advocate of individuals getting vaccinated. And what CDC has provided guidance on is for indoor settings and substantial high zones of COVID cases, and that this event is outdoors and in a moderate zone. Moderate zone, 675 people from all over the world in close quarters together. Moderate.
Super spreader event.
Right.
This is a super spreader event. Yes.
It's the super spreader 60th.
This is a global warming crisis, isn't it? Everyone's flying in their private jets.
Private jets.
Not paying their carbon offsets.
Yep.
No,
it's a nightmare. The other aspect of what you were saying, Connor, is that not only does it show the whole, rules for thee and not for me thing, it also shows they know this stuff is full of crap. If Barack Obama or Mayor Bowser or Gretchen Whitmer or
the Texas
Newsom,
Democrats,
or the Texas Democrats, or any of these people, and there have been Republicans too. There, the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, if they actually believed in their own orders being effective, they would obey them themselves because they don't want to get COVID and potentially die. Nancy Pelosi's 81, right? Like some of these are people that are well within the age where it's not, you don't want to get it. Vaccinated, not vaccinated, you don't want to get it. And they still routinely flout their own orders, which means not only, we already knew they thought they're above the law, but what they're saying is they don't think this actually works. They don't think it's necessary or effective, or else they'd be following it themselves. They're saying, and it's another reason why we can applaud this, like you said, is they're saying this is all garbage. It's full of crap. It's fake. And so it basically tells us we can disobey it just like they do. If they want to flout it, so can we.
I think the last part that we have to figure out how to overcome, I've been thinking about this in the past few weeks, is I think what this really boils down to, because of everything that you just pointed out, it's really just the virtue signaling. It's a projection of being someone who cares. And as I think about the businesses, so many business owners, they don't want to comply with this crap anymore. They don't want to have these restrictions. They don't want to have to require vaccines or ask for people's papers or require masks or any of that kind of stuff. What are they worried about? They're worried about all of the Karens like bombarding their Yelp page or Google page with negative reviews. And so they have to project that, like, every time Spike, you've been flying a lot. I've been flying, and we're here for you. we care for you. Like, no, you just don't want people to be upset with you. That's all this really boils down to. And you're terrified that if you don't go along with this ruse and pretend like everyone else is, and we all know it's kind of this pretend concern now, that the mob is going to come after you. And that's the piece that I don't know how we overcome. I don't know how we disempower the Karens to bombard these, review pages and leave nasty reviews and stuff. That to me is the puzzle piece that if we can figure out how to solve and not care about those people and their opinions and go about it. Like if this was pre-social media, I think we would have regained our freedoms far faster. But it's because of all these review opportunities and its ability for anyone to publish a tweet and have it go viral and, have someone be canceled. I think that's the hard element of us letting go of what these Karens care about and for us to not care what they say. And I don't know how we solve that little last piece. I feel like that's what's missing.
I think if we apply rules for radicals, we isolate and stigmatize them and make them look as foolish as they are. The fact that the truth's on our side, and this is something we as libertarians are often loath to do because, we want just the facts to win out because they're the facts. But the reality is, we're not in a marketplace of our ideas as much as a battlefield of ideas. And we can stay, consistent with our beliefs while also engaging it. A lot of people think that Rules for Radicals was specifically for progressives. It actually wasn't. It's a case study of how different practices can be used to, politically isolate and harm your opponents. And in this case, I think that if someone is out there trying to ruin people's lives and livelihoods through their, borderline aggressive actions in commenting and threatening and calling the police and all this stuff, call them out. No one likes a snitch. So call them out as what they are, the Karens and the snitches. I actually like the whole labeling people like this as Karens because it has really blunted the people that were like, well, I'm going to speak to the manager until everyone has to wear a mask. It's like, okay, Karen, calm down. And, I think that that's actually an example of that. And I think we probably just need to do more of that. Just isolate these folks when they're doing it and say, look at this schmuck who won't let a bunch of people choose to be together, harming no one because they're freaking out. They're so worried about staying safe at home. Here they are standing out in front of this store, screaming at the top of their lungs, spreading their formates or whatever they're called all over the place. I think it's absurd. Now, thankfully, guys, if for the people that are watching in New York City that are watching Obama have this, party with, 675 people from all over the world, they should be very happy to know that now, if they're not vaccinated, they can't do anything.
Anything indoors. Anything at all indoors. So I was going to say, I was wondering how, in a city like New York, where now literally you can't go to a restaurant, gym, indoor arena, anywhere, basically anywhere inside without a vaccination card. What do the shop owners do then? Because you're right, they don't want to do this. Now they're just being forced to do it. They're being told, no, in order to stay in business, you have to accept these things. So what do the shop owners do here? I don't want to comply, but I need to stay in business.
I have to stay in business. Yep. I had a couple times on the trail where we would go into an area with a mask mandate that was being not just brutally enforced, but kind of selectively enforced. They were going after specific businesses they were trying to shut down. So if there was anyone even, not wearing a mask over their nose, they'd come in and give them a hard time. And so, we'd go into either a restaurant or whatever during the campaign. And I would typically go in without a mask just in general. And I'd have people say, listen, I don't like it, but we are routinely getting threatened. We'll lose our business license. Please put the mask on until you step 10 steps over there and sit down. Then you can take it off. It's total foolishness. But if someone is watching and they don't see me telling you to please put your mask on, I'm going to get in trouble even more than you are. And in those cases, we do it. We'd put the mask on. Sometimes I'd literally just hold it over my face, walk over and take it off to show just the whole absurdity of the thing. But, we would do it because what are we going to do? Wreck that restaurant's livelihood because of a bunch of, keystone cops in their city enforcing this thing?
So
I think a lot of the business owners, they just feel held hostage, right? Like I've had a number of them come to me and say similar things. They're like, I hate this. I'm trying to find ways to fight against it. But in the meantime, I'd prefer to play these shenanigans than be shut down. And they feel like it's this massive trade-off where if they don't go along, then the alternative is, as we've been seeing throughout the country, this very willing use by the government of this like lockdown power to just ban business altogether. And they clearly don't want that. So they're willing to tolerate quite a lot of impositions on their freedom.
Yeah. And that's been one of the, like, seeing what they announced in New York today, which I have to be a little honest. I don't know if they announced this to try to blunt the news of Cuomo getting the sexual assault, being found guilty of sexual assault or in the investigation. I don't know which one they put out to blunt the other one. I'm not sure which one was there to like add it, that was there as a buffer for the other news.
I'm not sure. Well, I do know. I mean, Bill de Blasio hates Andrew Cuomo, so I tend to think that I'm honestly not sure. I
don't know which one it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I
just don't know why people still live there anymore. Good grief,
I have no idea, but I'm grateful that they live there instead of here in Florida, because I don't want you voting that way here.
Well, they're working their way there, but it's often the ones that are trying to escape that are working their way then.
Right.
This is it's the biggest city in North America, actually, I think, or second largest to Mexico City, but it's the largest city in the U.S., one of the largest on Earth. And remember, by the way, folks, remember, I don't know, a week ago when, even suggesting that there were going to be vaccine passports was considered extremist misinformation and conspiracy theories, even though the government literally said that they were working with private entities to create the protocols for these vaccine passports. And now here they are. This is very similar, Connor, to, I remember last year, like as early as March of last year, making anti-lockdown videos. We hadn't even had lockdowns here yet. And I was saying, they're coming. Here's what's happening in other countries, and here's why lockdowns don't work and are a stupid idea. And I would have people in the comments saying, you idiot, that'll never happen here. That's a conspiracy theory. Just because it's happening in China and Italy and France and Spain and parts of Canada, and there are cities suggesting it, and we're being threatened that it's going to happen, and they're already limiting the number of people that can be in outdoor events. They'd never tell us we have to stay in our house. And within weeks, those were the same people saying, you idiot, if you go outside, you're killing my grandmother. And it just goes to show how quickly that can turn, so that now this thing that was, misinformation, a matter of days ago is now happening in the largest city in the country.
You could get kicked off of Facebook and Twitter a week ago for things that are, being stated as
perfectly
true.
Fine
Yeah. If you guys haven't read it, or your audience, I loved reading the book by Milton Mayer called They Thought They Were Free. And it's this interview with a bunch of Germans in post-World War II Germany. And Milton Mayer, he was an American journalist of Jewish heritage and German descent. So he's interested in this question for like multiple reasons, all these, American journalists, Jewish, German, and he's like trying to figure out what's going on. So he goes to interview these Germans from all walks of life, trying to answer the question, like, how did you let this happen? Why did you support it? How did you go along with it? And it's Spike, it's kind of like what you were just saying. It's this, oh, this could never happen. Oh, that next thing is absurd. Oh, that, that next thing is going to happen. And we see from, if I were to boil down, which is a disservice to some of the amazing interviews and insights that are in there, but you boil it down and it really, all of their stories come down to, well, we didn't object to that thing before. And so why would we object to this next incremental thing? And that next one didn't seem, like that was going to happen. But had you at the beginning told us it would go to the end, we would have clearly objected to that. But we were conditioned in this constant incremental, almost like paralysis of inaction, because we had been conditioned to not stand up to A, B, or C. And so by the time we were at X and Y and Z, we were used to like our failed predictions, our inability to see what was coming down the path, getting used to listening to experts. It was very mind-opening for me to see the degree to which humans are willing to put up with this authoritarianism. And I'm not comparing at all what we're going through with Nazi Germany. And yet there are echoes of what happened then to what's happening now. And you can see similar psychological things at play that I think are really insightful for us to have this warning about, because it could get a lot worse.
Yeah, and
so
this isn't to compare to Nazi Germany. It's to say that in any of these cases of this sudden increase in totalitarianism, in multiple historical references, large and small, every single one of them starts with, well, we're only going to do this. And it's because of this thing you're really scared of. And then, we're going to have to do this. And they just, who is it? Rupert Aris Mendez in the comments said, frog in the boiling water. Like that's the
right.
whole, you slowly bring it up until eventually they don't realize that they're literally being scalded. And, it's, which is why we need to fight tooth and nail this idea of government banning through social media misinformation, because we keep finding that today's misinformation is tomorrow or next week's truth that we've been trying to expose, including this potential lab leak in China. I remember I was being called a racist during the campaign when someone asked me about the lab leak. And I said, I don't know. It's possible. Is it possible that communist China screwed up in their research that they were doing and it accidentally leaked, and that now they're trying to cover it up and we're trying to cover up that it even existed, and then after that they blamed it on wet markets? Is that possible? It's absolutely possible. Is it possible that the consensus theory right now is also true? Yeah, that's also possible. But I don't trust communist dictatorships. I don't even trust my own government. Why would I trust theirs? And people were saying, oh, that's racist against Chinese people. Turns out now that that's a viable theory that's happening.
So there was this show, it may still be on Netflix. It's Darren Brown, who's he's a British mentalist, like magician. Darren Brown, Pushed to the Edge. It's either called that or The Push. I don't remember which one. But in it, he takes this guy and he just slowly gets him to do things that are wrong, little by little by little, up until he asks him to push somebody off of the ledge of a building. And it's that same theory, because at the beginning he's like, I shouldn't do this, but all right, I'm going to do it. And then each one is just incrementally worse. And it was a great visualization of what you see happening in a lot of totalitarian governments, where it's just like, okay, we're just going to go this far. Okay, well, now this far, up until the unthinkable is being asked of people, but it's too late at that point. It's a great show. I don't remember if it was a series or a show or a single thing, but it was fantastic.
I'll have to look into that. It's a modern version of what's been known for decades, the Stanley Milgram experiment.
Right.
Yes.
Milgram. And this has been replicated. A lot of studies, you'll hear on the news, like experts say this, or study, a new study shows this. And the problem with all these studies is they're often not replicable, right? It's like they had some crappy study that, if it's true, if it's data oriented, if it's science, you should be able to replicate it. The Milgram experiment has been replicated time and again, showing the degree to which people are willing to follow orders, right? In the original experiment, it was you're sitting there and this guy in a lab coat who looks all official, a doctor-like, is saying, you need to shock the person in the other room. And the other person in the room was part of the ruse, right? They weren't actually being shocked. And each time that person would hit the button, the guy in the next room, he'd like pretend to get zapped. But the person pushing the buttons thinks this is all real and part of this very important experiment. And so the lab coat guy is pushing the button pusher. No, you need to do the next one that increases the voltage. And no, you got to do the next one. And pretty soon the guy in the other room is like screaming bloody murder, like, stop this, unhook me now. I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. And the person on the other end, of course, is like terrified. Like, should I really do this? Do I really need to?
Yeah.
And the person is like, no, the lab coat is like, no, this is really important. We have to see this through to the end.
Yeah.
And how many people are administering even the fatal doses? And so they get to the end. There's no more sounds coming from the other room.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you think he's paralyzed or dead. And the guy's sitting there like, should someone help him? Should we do something?
Yeah.
Keep pressing. And they do. They keep pressing the button. And so over and over again, these experiments have shown, I guess this roof one is a newer iteration of that people are willing to obey orders, even going against the dictates of their own conscience. And that to me is such a depressing revelation about the human condition, that people are willing to subordinate their own conscience to the whims of even pretend authority that's just wearing a lab coat, much more like official government, people. It's crazy.
And two horrifying, even equally horrifying aspects to what you just said with the Milgram experiment. Number one, those people in the lab coats never said, this is the law, you have to do it or you're going to get in trouble. They never threaten the person. They only, in a very stern tone, authoritative tone, say, you have to do this. This is very important. Mm-hmm. It's crucial to our study. They have they know that they can get out and leave at any time and refuse to do this. And there were a small minority of people who go, I'm not doing this. As soon as the person went, the first time, they're like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not shocking anyone. But the majority of people, not under any threat of coercion, not under any kind of, you're going to get in trouble, you'll be the one in there getting shot. It literally just, you have to do this. It's very, very important. It is crucial to this study that you continue to do this. The other thing that's really scary is that first shock starts with, what was that? Wow, that was terrible. And then it goes, and then it goes, and then, the total screaming to the point of, and then like you said, to nothing, where they're just pressing the button and nothing's happening. And it started with, hey, that was inconvenient. I didn't like that, right? And so it makes it sort of with this like, well, I guess the next step is and it's building this foundation upon foundation of, well, this level of harm is okay. Well, this level of harm is necessary too. Well, this level of harm is necessary too. And at some point, there's a sunken cost fallacy that happens where it's like, I'm already this far in, I better just see it through to the end. And that's what this system of despotism is built on, is on just constantly growing that level of comfort that people have with harming themselves and others for the thing, whatever it is, the whatever the effort or initiative is. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
You should are you going to do a Tuttle Twins Milgram experiment book? And
well, we'll have to throw that maybe in a cartoon episode.
M is for Milgram. Okay, so here's the final thing we're going to have Connor on for. In fact, we actually have a question for Connor on the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds attorney at law, Anchor call-in moment, where you can go to anchor.fm/muddied waters and you can leave messages for me and Matt and this week for Connor, and we will answer them right here on this show, The Muddy Waters of Freedom, every Tuesday at 8 p.m.-ish Eastern. And you can also, while you're on anchor.fm/muddy waters, you can also press the old donate button and leave us some money. And then way we'll have more money to do this show. And maybe we'll do a show without an error. We didn't this one, but it's bound to happen. We've been pretty much error-free. We just had that one. You don't have
for this
to donate
show?
Money.
For this episode?
It was just the one, right?
Right, yeah, so far.
That's what I'm saying. It was just one. We're good. We're gonna be good from now on. We're gonna be good. But I'm in a groove. You don't have to donate money for us to play your question or answer it, but we will like you more. So let's go to the questions here. It's not an error that I forgot to pull them up. Skip what?
No, that's if you want to skip the Brian one.
Yeah, we'll do that one later.
Yeah, do that one later.
And then we'll start with this one from John Bartasic. Bartasic. I can't hear anything.
You jinxed yourself. There's your
second. This isn't an error. Hold on. This is not an error. Hold on.
So yesterday, the NFL.
Okay, here we go. Okay. I knew. See, this was the Chrome. This wasn't me. All right, here's from John Bartasic.
Hey there, Matt and Spike. This is John Bartasic from Richmond, Virginia. So yesterday, the NFL sent out a memo further demonizing all unvaccinated personnel in the league. And they did this 20 days after players had the option to opt out for the year. Kind of seems like a little bit of a extortion in that if this information had been available before the opt-out date, a lot more players would have opted out.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, Spike. The NFL is either you have to get the shot or you have to comply to a weekly COVID test at your own expense. And a lot of players did not want to do that. So some people have said, I'm just going to quit, and they've left. Some people have gotten fired because they refused to get the shot. But they did it after they gave you the opt-out option. They didn't make that rule before that expired. So it was like they were like, you can opt out of the season if you want, but then everybody was like, okay, well, this thing looks like it's clearing up. We don't really want to do that. And then after that, they said, oh, well, now you have to get the shot, or you have to get tested every week. And I know that the Tennessee Titans quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, recently broke down and got the shot because he didn't want to have to worry about getting tested every week and be like the only person wearing a mask on his team. And it was... what the NFL has done here was they took away their actual freedom of choice on this thing by saying, well, no, now if you opt out this year, it will count against you. It won't just be a free pass for a year.
What's insane about this is, according to the government, now 70% of Americans have gotten at least one shot, which means we're about maybe 2 weeks away from what they call herd immunity. Herd immunity is from 60% up. Why are we still doing this? And the answer is what I said on the Kennedy thing and on Fox Business, 8 p.m. Eastern. The reason that this happened is the reason they're saying is because we don't have herd immunity with vaccination. You can still get it and spread it. The only way that you can potentially not get it and spread it and actually be immune is to get COVID. Like that's the only way. And even some people that get COVID still are able to get it and spread it again afterwards. Usually it's less severe the second and third and so forth time. But the reality is, like, there is no such thing as herd immunity for this. So and again, if you have the vaccine, you can still get it and spread it. So just let people make their own choices. Regarding the you have to get tested at your own expense, there's federal law that says that anyone who wants to get the test in America can get it for free. So I don't even know how they would enforce that. That's the federal government or the taxpayer or whatever are paying for it. So how could they say you have to pay for this test? I don't even know how that's possible.
To me, there's an interesting libertarian question here, right? Because it's like you should have the freedom of association to require anything you want as a condition of working. And if it's my company, my property rights, I should be able to, make you stand on one leg. And if that's what you want to do as a condition of working here, then that's my right. And so I can see the argument, and I tend to fall even now, even still, to the argument that business owners, NFL, all these groups, they have the right. I can call them stupid. I can say they're doing dumb stuff, but I think they have the right to do it. But I've been persuaded. I've seen in some libertarian circles some folks advancing the argument that they'll go to the extreme and they'll say, all right, well, the cattle cars hauling all the Jews to the gas chamber, what if those were a privately owned company, right? Is it okay just because, and I'm like, okay, well, I can see the argument where in this climate of fear and bullying, where the government is trying to outsource its executive function or its verification of, whether people are being vaccinated to the private sector and pushing businesses to doing this, there's this weird middle ground where if you're kind of deputizing the private sector on your behalf to have this kind of quasi-authoritarianism, I can at least see an argument being made that this isn't quite, private companies doing what they want of their own accord. They're operating under duress. And so in that element or in that circumstance, I can at least see the argument saying, well, maybe there's a basis to like sue the company or fight back somehow, and not have this pure argument of, oh, it's their company, their property rights to do what they want. But if they're the ones being deputized by the state, then like maybe they should suffer the same fate of the state and be opposed, just like we're opposing the state doing these mandates.
This is similar to, the social media censorship argument that we've been having for years now. And what I've always said is, yes, in a purely, private world, we can just look at this and say, hey, listen, they can do whatever they want with their platform. We should be looking more at how, if at all, is government involved. So in the example with social media has been part of the Atlantic Council, which is a consortium of multiple government agencies and multiple governments, including the U.S. government, mostly Western developed country governments, that are setting standards for, suggestive standards, of course, under the threat that you'll get in trouble if you don't use it, for social media companies. So I don't really see Mark Zuckerberg as the enemy. I see the people like Joe Biden who claim that Mark Zuckerberg is killing people by allowing us to share our concerns about the COVID vaccine, which keep being proven right. It's really government that is the issue here. So, going to this thing, the NFL relies heavily on subsidies and tax breaks and eminent domain from federal and state and local governments across the country. And if those governments then go, oh, by the way, it'd be a real shame if some of our biggest public-private partnership corporatist partners were to not mandate vaccination, and man, there'd be a lot of liability and a definite drop in the tax breaks we'd be giving them. Yeah, you've got a part of corporatism is the facade of free market capitalism, when the reality is you have government centrally planning things so heavily and picking winners and losers. And that leads to, would the NFL, absent all of those controls and coercion, would they be and mandates in some cases be requiring it? I don't know, but ultimately it's kind of academic because it is in the midst of all that's happening. I think at the very least we should be calling it out, even if we then say, hey, listen, they have the right to do it, even if there is some government coercion. At the very least, we need to be calling it out as stupid, if nothing else. So here is the next one from Jacob LaBelle. Haven't had one from him in a while.
Hey guys, this is Jacob LaBelle, one of the real ones. I have a question for Connor, if he's still available. Connor, who could write a better children's book? You or Guy on Left?
Wow. Guy on Left is Matt, by the way, Connor.
That's me, in case you didn't know who Guy on Left was.
Wow.
I wondered if this guy is your ASMR guy. Sounded like he's like a late night talk show, like soothing sounds in Seattle. Jacob. Tune in now.
Wow.
I feel
we'll let the market be the judge.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I can answer this with he has 12 published children's books and sold like 1 point what last year.
Connor's response
just a few.
Was the most subtle burn ever on this show. Hey, I'll just let the market figure it out.
Right. Yeah. He sold over 1 million books last year, and I sold like 40. I think.
What's your book, Matt? I don't know you had it. I didn't know you have a book.
I do. Yeah, I've got a book. It's I've got 2 books. They are not children's books. Do not read them to your children unless you're a terrible parent. I was going to say,
don't read those to children. Jesus.
Do not read those to children unless you are an awful parent. One is called "Can You Keep a Secret?" And it is the story of a very introverted young man who falls in love with an alcoholic sex addict with multiple personalities.
Wow.
And it's based on a true story. And I wish that was a joke. And the other one is called Dear Jack, Diary of an Addict. And it's about 4 friends who come together to help one of them get off of heroin. And as he is getting over his addiction, as he's getting over the initial hump of his addiction, it is juxtaposed against diary entries that show how he got into it.
Cool.
Also,
are they recent or have they been out for a while?
So Can You Keep a Secret came out in 2017, and Dear Jack, Diary of an Addict came out in 2000. I quit drinking in 2014.
14. What was weird for me is I wrote several books for adults before I started doing Tuttle Twins. I've written, I think now like 30 books overall. And when we started doing the Tuttle Twins books, it was hard. Like I can write, for me, it's really easy to write a book for adults, and I can just kind of stream of consciousness, just, type, edit it, and off I go. And that wasn't laborious. Like it takes a while and whatever. But man, like doing a book for kids was a unique challenge that took us a while to find our groove, because you got to like simplify it in a way where the kids can understand it, but then it has to be engaging at their level, but it has to be challenging. So it has to be kind of like pulling them in a direction where they're going to want to keep reading it. But you don't want, especially for what we're doing with our kids' books, you don't want to dumb these ideas down too much, because we're already trying to simplify them. Anyways, it was kind of a process for us to figure out how to like balance all that stuff together.
So when I first got into the Liberty movement, I had written one of the books. I'd written Dear Jack, Diary of an Addict, and I had started Can You Keep a Secret, but I hadn't finished it yet. But then I decided that I wanted to do a Liberty book for children. So I actually started one years ago, and you're right, it was so difficult to change my mindset from writing books that were geared toward to adult people who can understand when I'm talking about using heroin. I'm not saying you should go out and try heroin. To trying to
hey,
put
kids.
liberty. Hey kids, heroin's great.
Heroin.
I forget my parents watch this show. But like switching from that to trying to explain, like the non-aggression principle and government overreach to children. And mine was going to be centered in a school where the government was like the principals and the teachers, and the kids were just trying to live a normal life. But it was really hard, and I had to give it up. And then I heard you on the Tom Woods show, and then I went, so I got your books, and I was like, well, this guy's doing it better than I can. So I'm just not even going to do it.
I gotta say, I've enjoyed having a bit of a monopoly for a while in kind of what we're doing, that no one else has done this. And we just kind of like fill the void and sell a ton of books. And look, that's great. We enjoy it. But the ideological side of me, like the community builder trying to change the world or whatever, I'm like, we need like 1,000 more people doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, Julie Borowski's got her book. No one knows how to make a pizza, and she's got the Porcupine one too. And there's the voluntarist. There's a voluntarist book for kids, and there's some others who have been kind of dabbling and doing some stuff. And like, okay, sure, it's competition or whatever, but like, I think we need a lot more of that, because
competition's good.
It's going to happen.
Absolutely,
and it's going to happen.
Competition's good.
You are doing a proof of concept in an entire market to show there's even a demand for this, and you're actually building demand. As you
discussed in their spectacular show business, competition is good because it makes you.
Drives prices
harder.
Down. Those expensive Tuttle Twins books gotta go down in cost.
Gotta bring them down. Create a price equilibrium for the Tuttle Twins. So yeah, I haven't, unlike anyone else here, I've only published one book. As a child, when I was, I believe, 7, I wrote a book which was published at my school about my grandmother having her gallbladder removed, and it's called "My Mamie Had Her Gallbladder Removed," or "My Mamie's Gallbladder." Which was removed.
Now, was it illustrated?
Yes, by me. I tried my best to draw a gallbladder being taken out of my grandmother multiple times. It's pretty gruesome. I'll read that. We'll do an ASMR segment where I read my.
Nice. We're gonna do a story episode where we just read books.
and just read mine about. I also so that's and it did not sell well. It did not. My parents bought one. I think my grandmother bought one too. God rest her soul.
Now you can make an NFT about it, and
Yes, I can make an NFT.
More money.
My Mamie's gallbladder. So here's the next one from Josh.
Hey, Matt and Spike and Connor. Just wondering if you guys have read any of the Tuttle Twins books or any of the other books that Connor has put together. I think they're absolutely amazing. I wish I had them when I was a kid. They would have helped me wake up a lot sooner to everything. And I'd say my kids absolutely love your books, Connor. They already understand you don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. And I was just wondering also if you have any more books coming out for kids, because I would absolutely love to buy them.
So I think his first question was, have you read any of your books, Connor?
Have I read any of them?
Have you read them? You say they're good, but have you read them?
Yeah.
It's I read so when I do the drafts, I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and they're not twins, but I've modeled the personalities of the Tuttle Twins after my own children. And so they get kind of insider access, right? Because the script will change and we'll iterate, we'll drop a character or change things. And so they always love reading it at the end because they know the evolution of the story. And they're like, oh, we know what it really was before. So yeah, I'm actually a paranoid reader of my books because I'm always worried that there's going to be a typo. that
Yeah.
despite all that, like I have 3 editors go over these, and like, you know, and I'll tell you this, Matt, that Leviathan Crisis book you got, I'm not going to tell you where, you can go find them now, but there's 2 typos in it that despite all the reading and all the checking, you know, I get the book,
Matt
and then I'm
will
doing
find
this
them.
like leisurely read after we got we ordered 40,000 printed books. We do tranches of 40,000 at a time. And I was like, oh crap.
You just turned this into a brand new game for me.
There you go.
He'll find them. He'll find them.
Let me know how it goes. In terms of future books, so that 12th one just came out a few weeks ago. And we're working on figuring out what we want to do for book 13, but we're also working on more toddler books. We're working, as I said, on the 4th kind of choose your consequence novel for teens. We're working on some guidebooks. We're working on a really big American history textbook for kids about kind of the Declaration of Independence, the Revolution, the Constitution, but from kind of a Murray Rothbard conceived in libertarian slant on American history, to talk about the philosophy and the ideas and the classical liberalism, rather than just these battles happened and they were upset about taxation without representation. There's so much more to it. And with all the consternation over like 1619 Project and critical race theory and all that garbage, we felt like it's a good time to go deep on American history and give kind of the libertarian angle on how everything went down. And that tension and power between, you know, the people and the aristocrats and the elite. And anyway, so we're working on a lot. These bags under my eyes, if you can see them, they're I don't sleep a lot. We're trying to churn out a lot of content, but like with last year selling 1.3 million books, and this year trying to do 2 million, like I feel this urgency to get a lot more material out and get the cartoons out and really try and accelerate this, because I feel like we've kind of lost, you know, the adult generation. It's going to be very hard to like persuade people, but I feel a lot more hope when it comes to like families and their kids. And like, I'm a big Ron Paul guy, and I credit him with bringing me into the movement. He's why I'm here. And the thought that I often have is like, who is the next Ron Paul, or pick your Liberty hero, whoever that is. And like, but for the fact that he read a Tuttle Twins book when he was 12 years old or something, he would have gone down a different life path. How many people who are key to the future of our movement and our world are we reaching right now at a younger age and putting them on this path? That to me is super exciting to think what the future looks like and the contributions that are going to be made by all kinds of people who are reaching now. And so forgive the silly example, but I feel like, so I run a think tank. We change laws. We've changed dozens of laws. We're really good at it. And that's kind of my day job. And so in that day job, we're trying to persuade voters and reach adults and all this kind of stuff. But I feel like it's like we're in this big orchard full of these older trees that are kind of like decaying and diseased and knotted and everything like that. And what are all of us doing with our podcast, our think tanks, our projects, whatever? We're trying to fertilize these adult trees back to good health, right? We're trying to like save these adult trees, and we should. Like, that's super important. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but any good gardener, right, is going to focus on the seeds and the saplings. And making sure that the future of the orchard is spared that same diseased fate that's requiring all this investment of fertilizer. Sure, keep doing that, but also look to the future and figure out how you can avoid that. And I feel like that's what our movement for a long time has been missing. That's what wakes me up in the morning. That is what makes me super hopeful, is the future and this opportunity we have to really try and fix the rising generation and kind of help them learn these ideas so that they can put them into practice and defend them far better in the future than we are in the present.
Well, because we need more, and this will lead to that. That's, you know, I say a lot, we don't have a lot of second generation libertarians. Like, we have people that are like most of us, who we were conservatives or progressives or not really politically involved, and then something or someone or a combination of things or people or events brought us into the liberty movement. And we're just starting to see that second generation of libertarians. And what you're doing is actually doing both. You're creating both a first and second generation of libertarians by encouraging parents to share these ideas with their kids, while also helping reinforce ideas or even introduce ideas to the parents too. So it's it's incredible what you're doing. Here is the next question. I'm looking forward to the Tuttle twins and the Articles of Confederation. That's the one I want to see. The Tuttle twins discovered the Anti-Federalists. Here we go. Here's the next one from John Moore.
Good evening, Matt and Spike. How are you guys doing? This is John from over at Defy the Power. Had a quick question. In our research and development area, we are working on a Waffle House caucus light up tumbler for Christmas. Wanted to see if you guys had some ideas or your audience on different things we can add to the tumbler. The tumbler will be available in Ohio the weekend of August 20th. Thanks.
I think that's great. Does he mean like LED light up tumbler? How do you wash it?
Yeah. You by hand.
Clearly.
Like the others that you don't put in the dishwasher.
I put mine in the dishwasher. I'm sorry, I put mine in the dishwasher. They've been working. They've been fine.
Yeah.
But I would not put an LED one in the dishwasher.
So I don't know. I wish I had grabbed those Waffle House tumblers from literally right there.
If you want to stay true to brand, you need the logo. You need the logo. Probably a donkey on there because that's the second inside joke with the group.
And if you want to stick true to the logo, only like 1/3 of the lights should work.
Wow. Yes. Make it LED where only like somewhere around half the lights work. That's
like the W's out, so it says Awful House.
Awful how. Wow. That's it. That's
right. My only contribution is turn it into an NFT.
Yes. Make sure this actual physical item is also not fun. Make it okay. It can't be machine washed or funged. Just put that on there. So it can't be funged. Can't be machine washed. Hand funging only. All right. Here's the next one from Kenneth Evil.
Hey guys, this is Ken. Hope you're doing well. I had a question I asked on the Muddy Waters Facebook group earlier, and Matt already responded to it, but I wanted to ask it here. What's your guys' opinion on mandatory vaccination from employers? My wife was sent a notice this morning from her employer, Tyson Foods, saying that she's got to get the vaccine if she wants to keep her job. I don't really care about the politics behind the vaccine, but we don't want to get it because we want to start a family soon, and we don't want to risk infertility or birth defects. We're both in our early 20s and in good health, and the vaccine doesn't prevent transmission, so to us, this should be a personal choice. I'm conflicted because I don't want to get the government to come in for the rescue, but I believe her employer is too large and government subsidized to have any meaningful impact through the market. We just bought a house, so we're not in a position for her to quit right now or to pursue a lawsuit. She is looking for me to find a solution for her, but I'm not really sure what to do besides lie about it, about her getting it, and I feel like I'm submitting to him if I...
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Because, I mean, I was actually asked about this at the event I did last weekend during the walk and ruck march that we did for Concerned Veterans of America, and someone asked me about this for Walmart, and it was the same thing. I have a really good. This wasn't like a Walmart associate. This was someone making six figures in a managerial position in Walmart corporate, and they said there's going to be there's going to be a exact same thing. There's going to be a vaccination mandate. And it is not optional. And what do I do? And in that case, they're actually working, and I'm not sure how this doesn't violate some kind of privacy laws. They're actually working directly with their healthcare providers to make sure they don't fake it, and with their insurance company, which is provided by the company. And I said, listen, I've been retired for 4 years. It's easy for me to say, you should fight it. You should go take them to court and whatever. But you know better than us what you can afford to do financially. It's a tough one, man, and I never recommend breaking the law publicly because that's illegal, and I don't do illegal things publicly. And so, well, let me rephrase that. I don't do many illegal things publicly.
I was going to say, I think you do.
Yeah, I actually do a lot of illegal things publicly, but this is one of those things I don't because it's encouraging fraud. I will say this. I will say that there are those who have made the decision for it themselves, certainly with no coercion by me or even suggestion by me, that, if there is a way to fake it, that they try to fake it. It's, again, not something I'd recommend. Not even sure if it's possible, honestly. And I'm seriously not recommending that. I'm saying that that's what some people choose to do. And some people say, you know what, I'll do the vaccine because I don't know how else to fight it. This is the crappy thing about it. In a policy standpoint, again, this is not just like some mom and pop shop telling their employees this. This is a company that also gets heavy subsidization and tax breaks and eminent domain protections and all of this stuff. And, they just so happen to be deciding, like all the other major corporations in this country that also get similar benefits and protections from government, to all mandate this all at the same time. It is what it, this isn't just a private action. So.
Right. And while I would never tell anybody to falsify it because that is fraud, if you go to Kenneth's question, I may have uploaded a high quality PDF of both sides of a vaccine card and said, do not print this on 4x3 paper with 110 pound stock, because that would be fraud and you don't want to commit fraud, but it's there. It's there if you want to see what it looks like. But if you decide that is a route that you want to go, you should do it before they start making you get the vaccine from their doctors.
Right. So here is a 3-part question. I'm just going to play them all in a row. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say we had Connor for an hour, and
I know.
now we're on 2.
Okay. So
I wanted to give him the option if he wanted to hang out for the rest of these questions before we just kept going.
I do got to go in just a minute, so we can do a quick wrap up here.
Okay, well, this will be the last one, and then you can leave before we get weird with the ASMR thing. Okay, cool.
Right.
To preserve your status as a children's book author. So here we go. We'll play all these from the Cajun Libertarian.
So, since I have the platform, I would love to speak about an exceptional human being. That person being me. And I'm totally kidding. Tom for 52.com.
Oh, yeah.
He's running for the 52nd District of New York State. That's TOMFOR 52.com. That's Tom for 52.com. TOMFOR 52.com.
He runs better than all the
I had to cut that short because kids, they're completely quiet now, as you can totally hear. Yes, let's learn about animals. One of those animals being Tom for 52.com. TOMFOR 52.com. Sure. Yeah. That's
Why
about
did we
the sound
give this
that he
person
makes
a show?
after he ingests
We gave him
too many
our
edibles.
Friday night slot.
And we are, of course, definitely not talking about Thomas Daniel Queter. Tom for 52.com. TOMFOR 52.com. Definitely not talking about him right now. Yes, exactly. Nope, not doing that.
Is he in the forest? Like what?
I think.
Glad that I could make this last message kid-free. Yeah, send him to the gulag. Exactly.
Send him to the gulag.
You are magnificent. So is Tom for 52.com.
Why is this kid talking about a gulag? What?
Because it's Cajun's son.
And yeah,
must be a total translator.
Yeah.
Who are we talking about, Isaiah? Did you say muddied water?
It's muddy water.
Yeah. Can you say Tom?
Say Tom.
For 52?
52.com.
On Muddied Waters Media.
Muddy Water Media.
Good job, buddy. Thank you.
Muddy Water.
What? Right to the gulag. So thank you for that.
Good child labor.
Child labor. Child labor. I now support child labor laws after listening to that. So, Connor, before we let you go, thank you again for coming on. Give your final pitch. Tell us how people can stay in touch. Tell us tell us. You've been talking for 2 hours, so there's probably not much left to say, but tell us how people can keep in touch with you in the television.
Well, here's what we'll do. We will reward the listeners who stuck with us this long. If you use the coupon MUDD, MUDD, at TuttleTwins.com. You're going to get 40% off the kids' books.
Oh.
You're going to get free activity workbooks, and a screaming deal on all for the kids set of books. That's what it applies to. So right on TuttleTwins.com, you can see what the bundle looks like. There's an offer there that you can get, but when you go to the cart, make sure to add the coupon MUDD. That'll upgrade your discount and reward you for listening to the show this long, guys.
Nice.
Thank you. We've like I say, I feel this urgency. We're trying to get the word out as much as we can. We hope this cartoon we're going to launch here soon is really going to accelerate this. You can find Tuttle Twins on all the social media platforms. And we got some spicy memes, especially on Instagram. We're having a lot of fun trying to spread the word. So follow us, buy the books, check out what we're doing. We're trying to save the country one family at a time. Having a lot of fun doing it. So thanks for sharing your platform so we can reach even more people.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you
again,
so much
Connor.
for coming on.
You are a friend of the show. Next time, we won't keep you for 7 hours. But thank you again.
Right. Next time, we'll do the ASMR Tuttle Twins. It'll be fun.
Yes, ASMR Tuttle Twins. Yes. I am so Have a good night, man. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Oh, man. That was a great guest. I'm super. There we go.
There it is.
There it
that
is.
was that was great.
That was fun.
He's probably the smartest person we've ever had on the show.
He's up there, and yet he's still. You say he's smart, and yet he agreed to be on the show for 2 hours. So there's something to say about that.
Well, he agreed to be on the show for an hour.
Well, that's true. He did a great job. So we have, speaking of infrastructure, we had a bunch of
Tuttle Twins books are infrastructure.
Tuttle Twins books are infrastructure, but sadly they were not included in the $1.2 trillion bill that was just passed, Matt.
Yep. Well, not passed. It's gonna be passed.
Well, it's going to be passed. Yeah, it's gonna be
right. And Spike Nostradamus.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Nostradamus. That is like the most lazy. That was put Jew in it somewhere in the word, in the name. It was not even like.
I had to do that on the fly, and I was having trouble remembering Nostradamus.
Kosher-damus would have been way better.
That would have been a lot better. You're right. I was going to say. I was trying to put Spike at the beginning of it, but I couldn't think of how his name started, and so I had to say. Yeah. Anyway,
wow.
The monster.
Be the second out. We must be coming into the third hour.
The monster 2,700 page bill tallies up over 1.2 trillion with only the minuscule amount of 550 billion in new spending. Only 550 billion. And not as much money in raising money to pay for that spending.
It's debt spending, yeah.
Right. So one of the ways that they're planning on getting the money, and we're going to have to just rip this Band-Aid off immediately. Like normally we would save this for the end, but we're just going to yank this one right on off, is they're going to tax crypto. Now, as they say in one of the pages buried somewhere toward the back, any person who, for consideration, is responsible for regularly providing any service effectuating transfers of digital assets on behalf of another person will have to report each transaction to the federal government on an information return.
Yep.
And this would take effect on January 1st, 2023. So these newly defined brokers would be required to comply with IRS reporting requirements for brokers, including filing Form 1099s with the IRS.
Yep.
And that
also means
they will.
Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
No, well, it means, as you said, they're going to have to collect user data and including their names and addresses. It also means that they are now going to start being regulated as brokers, which completely destroys a lot of the crypto market where people are just creating coin. You're now going to have to go through the federal regulatory system to be able to have coins. This is the beginning of regulating and taxing crypto, which in one way means the mainstreaming of crypto, but it also means, it's now going to be an act of civil disobedience for some of these cryptocurrencies, which are encrypted and which do not require any of this to operate. It just for those things to exist are going to be acts of civil disobedience.
Right. Yeah, you covered that.
Yeah. Software developers, crypto startups, all of those people are going to be considered brokers now, which means they're going to be regulated, which means that now you can't just make a new token. You're going to have to go through the federal government to do it.
Right. I just found out that Sarah's youngest son likes pineapple on pizza, and somewhere Dan Berman is beaming. So is Jack Lloyd, and so many other people are not. The mandate to collect names, addresses, and transactions of customers means almost every company, even tangentially related to cryptocurrency, may suddenly be forced to surveil their users, which means the entire basis of crypto will be gone.
It's not very crypto anymore. And this can potentially implicate miners because they confirm and verify blockchain transactions, which means that they are, if you look at this definition, any person who for consideration is responsible for regularly providing any service, effectuating transfers of digital assets on behalf of another person. There's, especially knowing how government operates, there's no way that they aren't going to end up finding a way to tax miners. And when I'm saying miners, I mean crypto, not
ERS.
Crypto miners. Yeah, ERS.
ERS.
The people who mine crypto. Yeah.
Right. Now, cryptocurrency exchanges could see $250 penalties per customer whom they don't accurately furnish with an information return, or for whom they didn't accurately furnish a return to the IRS, even with steeper fees if any mistakes was judged to be intentional.
Now, the interesting thing about this is, I'm sure a lot of people are already saying, well, that just means a lot of these people are going to go to other countries. So there's something called FATCA, which basically says that pretty much every country on Earth, or most countries on Earth, comply with, if your country and your banks and your system want to be able to cooperate with the U.S. monetary system, which you kind of have to, you have to report to the IRS anything that would affect a U.S. person, which means a United States citizen, a United States resident, a United States business-based business, anyone doing business in the United States. So basically, the IRS gets the entire world's financial information. So you can't really get away from this aspect of it. Now, what's going to happen is this is just going to grow the crypto black market, which means that coins like Monero and other coins that are, ones that haven't even been created yet, that are completely encrypted and illegal, the market for them is going to go through the roof.
Yes. Other ways they're planning on paying for this bullshit of a bill is redirecting $250 billion in COVID relief funds, including $50 billion intended for federal unemployment relief that was eschewed by some Republican governors. That means that if you live in a state like Florida, where the governor said, we don't want the money, no, put it back toward, the debt, they're still going to spend it. Recouping.
Interesting thought on this. We said this was going to happen. We said there's no way they're going to spend this relief funds. It's money that's already sitting there as a slush fund for whatever they're going to throw at us next. And I remember people in the comments going, no, they're definitely going to find a way to spend it. They can't. If it doesn't qualify for relief, it's going to be sitting there, and then they'll make a bill saying exactly this. And we already saw Joe Biden used a couple $100 billion from one of the relief funds to go into policing for anti-terrorism efforts, because that's important right now. Anyway, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Another way is they're going to be recouping $50 billion in fraudulent unemployment benefits paid out during the pandemic, which means that anybody out there who they said, oh, you made money during this pandemic that you didn't report, you now need to pay us back for all the money that you got.
Yeah.
Which is
It
why
also is-
in earlier bill, they were looking to tax and get the records of people's PayPals and Venmos.
Yep. And keep in mind, it's not going to raise $50 billion. They always pad this stuff with, well, we're going to fight waste, fraud, and abuse, and that's going to reduce the cost. It never happens. They do go after individuals and ruin their lives, but for the most part, waste, fraud, and abuse never adds up to what they say it does, because first of all, the cost of doing the investigation and the prosecution and the seizure of the funds, that's not factored into the cost, so it never happens. They're also saying they're going to save $50 billion by delaying a Medicare rebate rule passed under former President Donald Trump. That ought to make all the Medicare patients happy.
Right. Now, I find it funny that you say that they always pad the numbers and how they're going to raise money, but they never pad the numbers on how much they're going to spend. Because they always miss that one by
that one always misses the mark, yeah.
And speaking of that, let's talk about broadband.
Yes.
Because they are planning on spending $65 billion on broadband across the nation. Now,
otherwise known as subsidizing some of the biggest, most profitable corporations in this country.
Right. Now, we're going to take a look at another broadband company. You're going to be in Kentucky this weekend, so this is perfect.
Yes. Perfect.
Kentucky Wired was a plan to ensure high-speed internet to all people in, oddly enough, Kentucky, including schools, businesses, and residents. It was proposed in 2015 and was supposed to roll out in 2016 with a budget of $350 million. The still incomplete project, it's 2021, 2015 proposed. The still incomplete project cost the taxpayers at least $1.5 billion, or roughly 4.25 times higher, thanks to cost overruns, big consultant fees, and flawed bidding processes that rewarded political connections instead of prioritizing expertise, which you would hear about people saying here.
Yes. It's so, this is why I numbered what he just said. I'm just going to read that statement, and this is basically a microcosm of all government spending. It doesn't even matter what it is. The still incomplete project cost taxpayers roughly 4.5 times more, and is again still incomplete, so it's going to be even more than that when it's over, thanks to cost overruns, big consultant fees, and a flawed bidding process that rewarded political connections instead of prioritizing expertise, a problem that the opponents of this had warned about from the beginning. That is the entire story of all government spending. It always costs more than they said it would, take longer than they said it would, sometimes exponentially more than they said it would, both in time and in cost, due to cost overruns, meaning it cost more than we said it would because we were lying. Big consultant fees. In other words, they hire a bunch of consultants because they don't have any idea what the hell they're doing. So they hire outside people who charge them a fortune that for whatever reason they didn't factor in. And a flawed bidding process. Flawed, in other words, intended bidding process where they reward all their cronies with contracts that they don't deserve, as evidenced by the fact that they're spending way more than they were supposed to. And as always, there were opponents of this spending that said this is exactly what's going to happen. Every single time this is what they do. And every single time they go, no, that's not going to happen this time because we're going to fight waste, fraud, and abuse.
So if the federal government is as cost effective as Kentucky in this venture, the price tag before finishing the project will be $276.25 billion of the $66 billion they're proposing.
Yeah, and still will not be complete. Yeah,
and it won't be. Yeah, it won't be done.
Yeah.
Won't be done.
And will drive up the cost because eventually they're going to try to recoup those costs from the people that are benefiting from it, who, if they themselves had simply paid for it, they would have, spent far less money than that because it's their bottom line. And they'll pay a portion of it back because they're certainly not going to pay the whole thing because they didn't ask for it. They'll pay a portion of it back and you'll pay for that. You'll pay for the debt spending with interest over 40 years from when they spent it. And because that's how long treasury bills take to mature. And then also, in addition to that, you'll be paying for the fees that'll be added for the infrastructural broadband payback.
Yep. Now, because everything is infrastructure.
Yes.
Its wide-ranging provisions include $343 billion for improvements on highways, bridges, and related projects.
So that'll be $1.2 trillion.
Yeah. $48.4 billion to make drinking water and water infrastructure safer.
So that'll be $250 billion.
$7.5 billion to help construct electric vehicle charging stations, which is a lot less than Biden wanted. He wanted so much in order to put electric vehicle charging stations across the Midwest, where the percentage of owners of electric vehicles is insanely low.
This is based on the thought flaw. By the way, that'll end up being $30 billion and still not complete. But this is based on the flawed theory that the reason people don't buy something is because the provision of the ancillary services needed to maintain it aren't available yet. That is the literal opposite. The reason that those ancillary services are not widely available yet is because people don't want it yet. As the number of electric cars on the market continues to just go up as a matter of the fact that over time they're becoming more efficient and better and cheaper. They will eventually become cheaper as the economy of scale grows, as the newer batteries like solid state batteries and things like that start to come to market. Electric cars are the future for everyday passenger travel on the ground. Electric vehicles are going to be the future. And as that happens, the electrical charging stations will also be added. And also, the electrical grid providers will be able to incrementally make the changes needed to feed that. When the government steps in and goes, no, we're going to just add all this crap now, what ends up happening is a bunch of those things are going to end up lying fallow and unused. And there will also be, because of the drain on the system of having all these additional stations, there won't be time for the energy grid providers to catch up. So if there is this sudden surge of people buying cars, because I'm sure they're going to try to feed that with tax breaks and subsidies for that as well, it's actually going to break the grid because they can't keep up with it. This is what central planning does. Instead of using price signals to determine where resources should go, it uses political considerations, which is the absolute worst way to decide where money should go.
And with the broadband, this is going to be the same thing. Oh my God, I'm blanking. We're in hour 3. I'm blanking on this word. The broadband and the electric charging stations that they're going to be putting are going to be useless by the time they finally get all of these things in, because the technology will have changed so much.
There's that.
And then they're going to say,
yep.
Right. We're going to end up having it where they're like, oh, well, we need so much more money in order to upgrade what we just did so it meets today's standards. $350 million over 5 years for reducing vehicle collisions with wildlife. $350 million over 5 years for reducing vehicle collisions with wildlife. And the bill would provide grants for wildlife crossing structures because the deer and the foxes know that they need to take the walking bridge because they can read signs that say animal crossing bridge here, so you don't get hit by cars. $350 million over 5 years for reducing vehicle collisions with what?
Not with bridges, but with wildlife crossing structures.
With wildlife crossing structures.
Not for the people to go over, but for the animals to go over.
Because they're going to know to go over the bridge as opposed to the spot that they can just walk immediately across on, because animals know that they're supposed. Wait, no, hang on. $350 million over 5 years to save animals from getting hit by cars with bridges.
For the animals.
For the animals, not for the people, not for the cars.
For people.
For the animals.
Because animals are great about crossing the road, as evidenced by the fact that they constantly walk into the road.
So I was just on vacation.
Although I will say, I've watched raccoons, but raccoons are super smart. I've watched raccoons just sit there and wait for the cars and then walk across. But again, those are raccoons. These are like suburban and urban raccoons. These aren't like wild animal, like out in the wild raccoons. These are like raccoons that are adjusted to us. Deer aren't that smart.
I was going to say, I just got back from a vacation where we went through Georgia and Tennessee, and there were a lot of dead deer.
Yeah, they
and
don't.
Other smaller animals.
Wildlife. I'm sure in their last dying breath was, if only they had prioritized our safety and the Department of Transportation with a crossing structure, I wouldn't have walked out into interstate traffic and then stood there frozen as the car hits me.
This reminds me, it was either a podcast or a radio show that went viral, and some woman was talking on it, and she was like, why? Because she hit a deer, and she goes, but it wasn't at the sign. So how was I supposed to know that a deer would be there? There wasn't a sign. And she wanted more money for, more signs so the deer would know where to cross. And I think that they listened to that and they said, this makes sense.
This makes sense.
We should build
these animals,
walking crossing structures.
And yeah, wow.
Kenneth says that was a gag video, and I'm going to choose to believe him because that was really
that was
dumb.
a gag video, but this isn't.
But this is
they
real.
They must have thought it was real too. So Elizabeth Coquillard says, I've seen a study done that these animal crossing bridges actually do prevent some animal car collisions. I'm sure they do by virtue of the fact that, some will cross along there, but there certainly would be more by having the cars go over. And Adam says, why are they doing broadband when the whole world's moving to fiber optic?
Right.
Here's the other aspect of this. In 10, 15 years, when they finally finish this project at the cost of billions more, hundreds of billions more than they said, we're going to be in wireless. We're already at 5G. We are going to be so close. I don't think people realize the market that there is for all internet and even low-level power to become completely wireless, right? Like, I don't think people understand that in like another, let's say 10 years, so many things you'll never have to actually plug in. We already have the technology where you can put it on the plates with the NFC technology or whatever it's called. It's going to be where it's just near a zone and it charges, or if it's in your house, it charges. Like,
right.
The stuff they're making is, they're making stuff for like last year. Thank you. They're making stuff for like last year or excuse me, this year. This is, 10 years from now, we're going to be so far. It was like you were saying with the charging stations, all this stuff. Yeah, Starlink, Craig, this is all going to be obsolete so soon.
Yes. Man. So the bill's also going to ban
I'll have
vaping.
To come back. I'll be right back. I can hear you, but I'm going to just
keep
sneezing until I move.
Yeah, do your thing. The bill would also ban vaping on Amtrak, and while this is sort of a minor thing because I don't ride Amtrak, but if I ever do, I guarantee you I will be vaping on that train because I still do that. I do it on planes. I do it in government buildings. I do it anywhere that I want to because stop me, really. I don't do it obnoxiously. I don't do it obnoxiously.
It's not really a vape pen. It's not really a vape pen. It's just my thing, but it come and take it. Molon vape.
Molon vape. But yeah, anywhere they tell me not to, I already do. So if I'm ever on an Amtrak, you're goddamn right, I'm going to vape there. And prior to the pandemic, Congress authorized about $1.7 billion each year in federal subsidies for Amtrak. But since Joe Biden loves Amtrak so much, because I used to ride Amtrak on my way into DC when I was, a young senator from Delaware, the bipartisan infrastructure bill will give the service close to $4 billion each year. And I don't know how many people ride Amtrak anymore, but I don't feel as though it's $4 billion worth. And if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, we did an episode where we talked about part of the thing that was being talked about. I don't know if it made it to the final bill because I haven't read all 2,700 pages, but they
Nor
talked
did
about
anyone who's voting on it.
Fair. They talked about taking private railroads and giving preferential treatment to Amtrak so they could use that, which will slow down shipping, which is going to make everything for you cost more. And Billy Pierce had a really good point a second ago, and he said all this government spending on steel, copper, et cetera, is going to inflate the cost of those commodities in the private market, so that equipment and services are going to cost more. So everything that they are doing in this bill is going to end up costing you as a taxpayer, as a citizen, as a consumer, and as a crypto holder more money.
Yeah. But thankfully, the deer, Matt, a certain percentage of the deer who happen to walk across the crossing path will not die until they're shot by a hunter.
Or eaten by another animal.
Or eaten by one of the animals in the crossing path. First of all, the smart predators are just going to be like, yeah, no, why don't you cross the path? No, we're good. No,
come on over.
You're safe.
Come on over.
Yeah, come be safe in the crossing path with me.
It's the toad and the scorpion.
It is.
No, come on over. Come on over. This is how you go now.
Yeah, no, this is where you go. This is safe. Because keep in mind, predators tend to be much smarter than prey. Right, like in general, it's a numbers game. The prey survive by just having a bunch more than the predator, much more offspring than the predators have. But predators tend to be way smarter than the prey. Not always, but typically speaking, right? And so now you've got this gamed system of crossing paths, and it's gonna be the predators who figure it out first. People, they're gonna be the first ones that are like, and then they're just going to sit there in the trees, you bunch of morons. So anyway, now the good news here is that the bill also reclassifies gender identity as a protected class, which, okay, fine. But it's because that's also infrastructure. That's necessary. That's
right. I'm like, okay, I don't care. But why is that in this bill? Did I skip over that part? I did.
Yeah. It's fine. It's like, what does that have to do with infrastructure? It's
right.
It's
absolutely nothing.
This is, we support the, one thing at a time legislation that you can't keep doing these omnibus bills. If you want to have broadband, then you have to introduce that as its own thing and let everyone have. You also couple that with legislation that requires there to be enough time for everyone to read it so they can actually break it down and talk about it and debate it. If you did those two things, so much legislation would never happen, because first of all, they wouldn't have the time to introduce all this nonsense. And I'm not even talking about specifically the gender thing, but this whole bill, nothing. There wouldn't be enough time to give everyone time to read all this stuff, which is good. That would slow things down. But then also, if there's a need to reclassify gender identity as a protected class, then introduce that by itself and let everyone have time to read it, and then let everyone have time to debate it and decide if it's needed or not. And if it is, great. If it's not, great. But, they keep adding this hobby horse stuff to every single thing. Like, for example, Animal Crossing. I don't know why that bothers me so much, but it's just like... But yeah, the Amtrak thing, also something to keep in mind. When we're talking about like steel and stuff, when they come up with this pricing, I guarantee you they're not using today's pricing for steel and wood and everything else when they're estimating the cost.
No, they're using last year's or the year before.
They're using their core stuff, their core pricing.
2018.
Right? Yeah, 2018 and whatever the last available, standard for pricing is, which is way lower than now if you've been outside and gone anywhere, bought anything. And now imagine what it's going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. They never factor that in. And even still, it's just gonna be a ridiculous overrun. Like, there's never been any of these things that don't end up having ridiculous overruns. But anyway, so we're now, because we're in 2.5 hours into this, and because apparently I just want to keep sneezing. I'll be right back. I don't know what I must have. This is what happened. Is 2.5 hours in, my body said, nope, we're sneezing now. So you say things now.
Hey, you know what? Don't worry, I've got this. So tomorrow, on a brand new episode, and it's good to be back. We needed the week off. It's good to be back. Thank you all for tuning in. It was great having Connor on. I've wanted him on the show for a long time, and he finally reached out and said he wanted to be on. So on Wednesday, tomorrow, on My Fellow Americans, Spike has Lou
Sanderfeen. Lou
Really?
Sanderfeen. Lou Sanderfeen.
Lou Sanderfeen. Okay, Lou Sanderfeen.
Or Lou Feen. Either way, Lou or Lou Sanderfeen, who was my
I always called him
first
Lou
guest.
Sander.
What? So he both was Lou Sander and Lou Sanderfeen and Lou Feen, whatever you want to call him. Lou is going to be on the show.
Lou is going
was
to be
my
on the show.
first guest on My Fellow Americans, and he's also one of the key people responsible for making me an anarchist by constantly asking me questions that I did not have answers to and encouraging me to read books that made me very uncomfortable when I read them. And so we're actually going to talk about the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest, which is a festival he does every year, about that. And we're going to talk about I've been talking a lot about homelessness and the solutions to homelessness, and he has a lot of thoughts on that. So we're going to be talking about that. And I'm sure he's going to be giving me a hard time about being involved in the LP because he's a non-voting
Right, yeah,
anarchist. I
'cause he's-
guarantee you he's going to at least.
He's
spend
what
20
you
minutes
were
giving me-
3 years ago.
Yeah, no, he's gonna say you were the promised one. You were supposed to be, and we're gonna have fun with that. So he's a great friend. I cannot wait to have him on. It's gonna be a fun thing tomorrow, and then on Thursday we're doing an episode. You're doing an episode of the Writer's Block.
I am with Byron Cabbage, who is
Yes.
He's in Kentucky and he's helping organize
with the
Spike's whole event this weekend. So I'm excited to talk to him. And mainly, I'm just going to ask him for multiple videos of Spike throwing out the first pitch at the Florence Y'alls baseball game because I want to see that train wreck. And
I'm
will
going to
make
throw a heater down the
montage.
middle. And
If I was on that side, I would mute you, but because please, you're going to throw a heater. You're going to throw maybe a changeup, which is going to go wide outside.
Shocking the world. I am going to throw.
Counts.
I have been practicing. Just today, I've been practicing, and I have been routinely throwing at least 3 out of 4 times a ball that goes to the strike zone.
How
and
far?
I did it by measure. How far from it? 61 feet.
60 feet, 6 inches, but whatever.
Yeah, no, that's what I did. I measured out. I even gave an extra 6 inches just to, make sure. What, just for the height? No, actually, the target's higher than me. The way I did it, it's a tree that's a little bit raised up from where I am. So if anything, I'm doing it at a slightly more difficult projection than where I would be, 4 inches above or something. It's not a huge increase. It's like 4 or 5 inches raised up.
I think it's
or
6.5
like
inches.
Yeah, whatever it is. But I mean, it's not like, several feet up or whatever. So but it's higher, whereas I'm doing it where I'm slightly lower than what I'm shooting for. And I've been 3 out of 4 times either like right around either in the strike zone or at least where like they're not having to, move to get it. And that's just in the first day that I've been throwing it. So
I can't wait. I can't wait to see you try this with 2,000 people watching you.
Yes, that's just going to make it even better. I'm going to nail this. I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it.
I have faith in you. And then on Friday at 9:30 Eastern Freedom Time, there is a brand new episode of Cajun and Eskimo from Bayous to Igloos with Cajun and Eskimo, where they will be talking about hopefully not what they talked about last week.
Yeah.
Cajun.
Yeah, Cajun. And right before that, it's is it 6:30 Eastern or 6:30 Central? Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up in the calendar
For your thing.
For my when I pitched the shutout. Yeah, it's gonna be
your one pitch shutout.
My one pitch.
That's
shutout.
at 7:30 Eastern.
This says 6:30 Eastern.
Oh, 6:30 Eastern. Sorry.
Yeah. So at 6:30 Eastern, at 5:30 Central. Wait, are we in? Hold on.
We're in. I think this is Eastern because we're in Eastern.
Okay, Florence, Kentucky is in Eastern. I know there are parts of Kentucky that are Central. Okay, so it's 6:30 local time, which is 6:30 Eastern. I will be throwing out the opening pitch of the Florence Y'alls baseball game. And if you want to, I'm going to drop a link in the comments if you guys want to be a part of this.
You can watch it on Vimeo.
Yeah, but if you want to actually be there, then hold on.
If you can't be there, find them on Vimeo, because that's what I'm going to do. And I'm screen recording. I'm screen recording this train wreck.
Here's where you do. Here's where you get the. Yeah, I want to go to it. Here's where you go and use the link Liberty. Use the hold on. Use code Liberty. I'm going to put in there.
KDK over on YouTube just said, well, not just a few minutes ago, said exactly what I was thinking when you were describing your pitching practice. Spike over here training himself to throw high. Yep, you may just go right over that catcher with the way you're training.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. So if you're going to be in the Florence, Kentucky area, get tickets to this thing and watch it, and then tune in for Cajun and Eskimo from Bayous to Igloos at 9:30 Freedom Time on Friday. And then next Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern, Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, I believe, will be returning. Sorry he couldn't be on last night. He had some issues come up, and that's on him if he wants to tell people. But I hope that he is back on Monday, because did you hear his last one on the Constitution?
I did not, and I hate that I missed it, but unfortunately,
it is so good. It is up on Anchor at anchor.fm/muddied waters, and you can listen to that there. No, Spike hasn't gotten the Wild Thing glasses yet, but he is hoping to get them.
They're on their way. They're on their way. There's a slight chance they'll get here after the event, because I even paid for expedited shipping, but we'll see.
But they're coming from China.
50-50. They're coming from they're Chinese glasses. But
China.
I mean, I want to say, I feel like I'd rather it go somewhat high and the guy has to reach up than for it to bounce, right?
Whatever you do, don't throw high. Well, yeah, no, you want to go high over bouncing. Don't bounce it. I think that's why so many people throw it up and over, is because they're like, I don't want to bounce it.
I don't want it
so
to
then
bounce,
they aim higher, and so when they throw, it goes sailing way above the catcher. Oh man, I got a pair of PF Flyers if you want to come down and get those. I'm not going to mail them to you. I'm certain we have the same size foot.
I thought they were going to give me cleats, but I don't know now.
Got a pair of them too.
I'm gonna want cleats. I want to do the whole thing. I want to look down and get the call, and I want to pick my pitch and check first base, make sure that they don't try to steal second. I mean, there's no one on the field yet.
Of course, yeah, but you still have to do it. You're not going to get a chance to do it ever again.
I'm not exactly. When is the next time I can check to make sure that
nobody's trying to steal.
No one's trying to steal second. And then join us on Tuesday at 8 Eastern next Tuesday for another amazing episode of the Muddy Waters of Freedom, where Matt Wright and I parse through the week's events like the baseball champions that I am. Matt, if someone were to try to find Muddy Waters Media on the internet, is that even possible? And if so, how?
It is possible. All one would have to do is head on over to anchor.fm/muddied waters. Hey. Anchor. This is the sound of a Tuttle Twins book against the microphone.
This is the Tuttle. And then they found out about...
Let's read a passage.
Do you know how
you'll find it?
To make a
You'll find it. You'll find out soon enough. Powerful.
It takes
Great stuff. Great stuff, Connor.
to make a pencil.
Great stuff. You're going to hear some barking and loud noises in a second. But if you go to anchor.fm/muddied waters, you can leave us messages that we will play live on the air.
I can't wait.
I can't wait either.
And
you can all
you have to tell me. Give us money.
And you can also donate. You can donate money so we can soundproof this room so you wouldn't hear barking right now.
Can we soundproof the room?
You wouldn't hear barking if you donated more money.
Give us money.
Give us money.
No.
Give us money.
More money, no barky.
Or you can find this in every other episode at muddiedwatersmedia.com.
Well, that sounds fantastic. It sounds so fantastic that you should all go over to Tom from 52.com. Oh, also, Jonathan Reels. Gosh, I forgot about it. Jonathan Reels is not a real candidate. The Federal Election Commission states that an individual running for a seat in the U.S. House of Reps becomes a candidate when he or she raises or spends more than $5,000 in contributions or expenditures. So if you go to jonathan.cash, you can help him in this campaign. And I will be there on the 24th for the outreach event with Vermin Supreme and Portia Shepard and Jonathan Reels, the Rally for Justice there in beautiful Alabama. More information on that soon. Folks, thanks again for tuning in for this episode of the Muddy Waters of Freedom. We love you. I love you and Matt loves you. And where we're going,
we don't need roads.